Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Sunday, January 20th. And it is, for the NFL fans, it is Super Bowl Eve, as it were, because it's the last Sunday of real football before the Super Bowl. Congratulations to the Rams, who surprisingly are on to the Super Bowl themselves. And, of course, the other game just getting underway now. We'll keep an eye on it. Well, I won't. I'm just saying that to be nice. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We thank you all for taking the time to join us on this Sunday evening. Lots to talk about in Division III. Certainly plenty to chat about on this show. If you got questions, send them our way. We'll do our best to get into them, as it were, and figure out what's going on with what you got and what we see. Lots to talk about. There's been upsets, not surprisingly. There's been some shakeups in some conferences, not surprisingly. There's going to be lots to talk about, to say the least. Just reading a question from a fan. I know you are online with us, and we thank you for doing that. You can also interact with us on the chat boards if you need. And you can do so pretty easily through Facebook, where we're simulcasting the show, and we hope all of you tuning in there are enjoying it. And on YouTube, there's a chat room as well. Mark Carini saying, finally, I can catch the full show. Well, thanks, Mark. Does that mean your football team might not be playing tonight? But thanks, Mark, for tuning in. Tell your friends. Let others know that we are here and enjoying it with you. Let's see here. So, obviously, we have upsets to talk about, underdogs. It's kind of the theme. I know there haven't been a lot of upsets, but there's been enough, and we've had upsets all season, but we finally went with it for a title here this evening. By the way, lots of things we need to talk about Milestones, too, and that's part of it, too. As the title of the show, or I should say the first sentence on our tease was... Milestones, upsets, underdogs, under the radar, and giving back. That's what's on tap for Sunday. We've had teams who are flying under the radar. That's who we will profile here tonight. We've had teams who have been pulling off upsets. We've had teams who are the underdog to some degree. Even the number one team in the country, I would argue, many may think is an underdog. And, of course, milestones. Coaches hitting milestones or players hitting milestones. We'll talk about it all here this evening. We start with milestones. We mentioned New Jersey City's Bacon. Love the name. Bacon getting over 2,000 last game. That was before Thursday's show. Well, now she's officially gone past the NJAC record for scoring in a game, and we congratulate her for that. I'll double check exactly how many points she's got, as I do have a nice email that I will. Here it is. Breaks the all-time NJAC record, 2,052 points now and counting. And I was thinking to myself, that's certainly a significant accomplishment. We've had our fair share of student athletes who've gone over 2,000, and we'll have our fair share this year in women's basketball. There's two more who are knocking on the door, as it were. And let's see if I can find that number quickly. Also, I ad-libbed on myself here. We have a Records Watch section. You got two. You got Haley Sandin at Bethany Lutheran. She needs 195 points to get to 2,000. You also have Madison Temple at Thomas More. She needs 60 points to get to that. Now, if Thomas More was having a normal season, you would say she'd probably do it in the next week or so. Granted, she's at this point because they've already played 21 some odd games. Or 22, I should say, games already. So she's got at least 3 more games. I think they play a couple in early February, if memory serves. So my gut tells me she'll get that mark in early February. The question is, can Sandin get 195 before that? And who will be the all-time scorer? Not all-time scorer, but who of those 3 will finish with the most points at the end of the season? My money's on Madison Temple. But Bacon is certainly going to make that interesting, I think, and it'll be fun to watch nonetheless. But congratulations to all those ladies on their accomplishments. Also, other milestones we should point out. Husson's Kissy Walker collected her 500th victory this weekend. Became the 200th active Division III women's coach to hit that, which also tells you how many women's coaches are so good out there. And obviously they're now all chasing Yasinov, who is distancing himself from his friend Mike Strong in that category. So congratulations to all. Mark says anybody but the Patriots. Mark, I know a lot of people like that. I'm not that surprised by your response to me on that. It seems like it's either one or the other for most people. All right, so let's talk about some of the upsets. We have a full show, actually. Let's talk about the full show first. We're going to have to keep things moving tonight because I went and got greedy. First, we're going to hear from Hillary Scott from the 17th-ranked Lynchburg Hornets. They continue to do well this season. We'll talk a little bit more about how the top 25 worked out in a moment, but they got through another good weekend of ODAC play. We'll talk to Hillary about his squad. Joe Crispin will come on from Rowan's men's basketball. You talk about maybe under the radar to some degree. We've talked about Rowan a little bit on this show. The question really becomes, when are they going to pop into the top 25 at this point? They are the co-leaders in the NJAC with 4 losses, 3 of them coming in NJAC play. I think there's a fair argument to say maybe they are or not a top 25 team, but right now no one's voting for them. We'll talk about that quite a bit with him. Tim McDonald will join us from Cabrini. They're not having the best of seasons, but they've got a wonderful, they and several others have a wonderful, I'm sorry, I lost the word I'm looking for. Moment tomorrow isn't the right word. They will be giving back on Martin Luther King Day by doing a clinic, for lack of a better word, basically giving back to the communities with funds from that clinic, the money that they raise, going towards their community. So in the spirit of Martin Luther King, doing some community service. They're not the only ones, but we thought it would be appropriate, so we'll have Tim on the show in the NABC Coaches Corner. Excuse me. I've been outside. It is freezing cold. That snowstorm we were expecting never showed up. It always rained for us. However, the temperature has gone from low 40s, mid 40s today to already in the mid 20s and expected to get down near 0 tonight. So my nose is running because I was out at a neighbor's house briefly. Unfortunately, I wanted to be there longer, but briefly. My day didn't go according to plan, and my nose is now running from what that triggered. Anyway, we'll get it taken care of in the break. Chris Martin from the CCIW will come on. That's our Central Region guest. We'll talk to him about the CCIW. We'll talk to him about the men's and women's races. We'll also talk about his retirement upcoming and the work he has done in that CCIW and in Division III. Also maybe get a little bit of a preview of the NCAA convention, which is coming up this week. There's no legislation on the dockets for basketball specifically. There is some general legislation for Division III that you may be interested in. We won't go into the weeds on that necessarily. But, of course, there is the legislation that all 3 have to vote on, and that is whether to add 5 members to the governor's council, which is the overarching group that runs NCAA. And of those 5 members, I'll be curious if Chris Martin thinks any of them will be from Division III or have Division III roots. I also believe some of the rules with that are that they can only serve back-to-back 3-year terms at the most. So the idea being you rotate. I'll be interested to hear his take on that. Then we'll talk to Abby Kelly from Bowdoin, the #1 team in the country in women's basketball. The senior guard will join us. We actually talked earlier today on the worries that this storm that blew through our neck of the woods and didn't do much here would do too much up in New England and in Maine. And I don't know if they've got power now or not, but we decided to get that out of the way. We talked to her coming up. And then Ryan Scott will join us with a top 25 double take. If you know this show well enough, you know that's a lot of guests, Dave. Yes, it is. And that means we will go into overtime, though we'll try not to go too far for our valued listeners. So there you go. That's how the show breaks down, and we hope you'll enjoy it with us. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, and join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Got a few minutes here, not only to maybe answer some of your questions, but also talk about, the top 25s. Jay on Periscope Twitter says, WashU women's basketball coach Randy Henderson got to her 200th Friday against NYU. You are right, Jay. She did. Congratulations to Randy Henderson. But compare that, and it's a great milestone to get to 200. But remember, she left Division III. She got a lot of those wins at, was it Central? Wow, how did I just forget where she was? Anyway, but there's 20 active Division III members who are over 500. Just shows you, while 200 is certainly not a milestone we want to take lightly, just how good basketball coaches have been in women and long-term, rightly or wrongly, but long-term and good in women's basketball in Division III, that we have 20 with 500 or more wins. And remember, don't compare this to Division I. They play a few more games in Division I. All right, so let's take a look at the top 25 so far. In men's basketball, a handful of losses. I think the biggest surprise is Williams went 0 for 2 this weekend. They lost to Amherst on Wednesday. We talked about that, obviously, on Thursday's show with the sound from Aaron Toomey. But followed it up with an 80-66 loss to Middlebury. That's just not a good result, in my opinion. I know to some degree that NESCAC play is hard. We know Williams is a good team. But when you've already lost to Amherst, to then go and lose by 14 to Middlebury, who's receiving votes but not in the top 25, and it's not to take anything away from Middlebury. They're a good team. It's just a surprising result. And Williams is going to tumble as a result of it. I've had them at 6 on my top 25. That's where they are. They're going to fall a little bit there. How far they fall is debatable because some teams behind them also lost, but Williams will take a little bit of a hit there. Hamilton defeated Geneseo and then had their game against Amherst postponed due to the weather. So interesting that Williams and Middlebury were able to play, but Hamilton and Amherst were not. Granted, that game, I can't remember if that game, I think that game was at Hamilton, and so getting to Hamilton was probably going to be a little bit more problematic than getting up to Middlebury, to be honest. St. John's lost to Carrollton. I believe I saw Stokeman didn't. Oh, no, Stokeman did play. I apologize. 66-63, surprising. Carrollton's not having the best of seasons, but that now takes St. John's into their matchup on Monday against St. Thomas with much more on the line now, as St. Thomas is a little bit more in the driver's seat here. So big rivalry game there, a lot on the line, especially for St. John's, who's not going to want to lose 2 in a row. Stevens Point, in the meantime, lost 2. That's surprising. They lost to La Crosse 61-57. We talked about that on Thursday's show, but then followed it up with a loss to Platteville 61-60. Listen, we talked about the WIAC being a battle this season, but there's certain results I expected. I expected Stevens Point to beat Platteville. Platteville has been Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde this season. They have been all over the place. I've seen them in person. They were good, but they didn't blow you away. That win over Stevens Point says a lot. Stevens Point now with 5 losses and 11-5. They will tumble as well. Swarthmore lost to Ursinus. I'll tell you right now, I'm not shocked by that. I still think Swarthmore is a good team. From what I gathered, and I had my own distractions on Saturday, but I wasn't able to watch. From what I gathered, Swarthmore or Ursinus shot extremely well, and you're going to win games when you shoot really well. And they attack that Swarthmore defense, and that SWAT defense is tough. But if you're going to attack it and get to the free throw line and hit your free throws, then you're going to have a good night. And clearly Ursinus had a good game plan there. We'll see how SWAT responds from that, but I'm not overly surprised to see SWAT lose a game like that. St. Thomas got through the weekend unscathed. MIT had a heck of a game against Babson. And Jerko is back. We hinted that he might be back. He got back and scored 37 in what ended up being an overtime win over Babson. MIT is starting to look scary again. Granted, Babson is looking good. That's only Babson's 5th loss of the season. They were on a run there for a while. Babson is looking good. The NUMAC, the top of the NUMAC is going to be a fun battle to watch because I think Springfield's going to get their feet back under them as well. I think that's a conference you're going to want to take a look at the rest of the season. Plattsburgh lost both games to Oswego and Cortland. I'd be shocked if they stay in the top 25 right now. Lost to Oswego by 2, lost to Cortland by 2. Remember, we had them as a debatable team last week, and it's starting to look that way. Really surprised by that. Capital lost to Heidelberg earlier in the week. We mentioned that, but then they got back over Ohio Northern 102-49. That says a lot about Ohio Northern's struggles this season. That says a lot about how good Capital is as well, because remember, you think Ryan Bruns alone would keep you from getting to 102 points, but apparently that is possible. Whitewater, who had lost to Oshkosh early in the week, defeated River Falls, and Salisbury, they're going to come out of the top 25 as we initially predicted. They're tumbling right now. 90-75 was their loss to York earlier in the week. Frostburg nipped them 97-86. The CAC is eating themselves, and Salisbury, I think, is now that lure or that air of what they were doing earlier in the season is rubbing off, and they're not doing as well. Wittenberg, by the way, had to survive 2 overtime games. They went 98-94 overtime against Ohio Wesleyan, which remember, then Oberlin took them to overtime. I wonder if voters remove Wittenberg from the top 25 this week as well, because other teams are going to put in and back-to-back overtime games, especially to Oberlin, even though it's a win. I don't know if they stay as a top 25 team. Gordon lost. I've been voting for Gordon, and they lost to Western New England. I've been nervous about that vote for Gordon. I think they come out of they'll lose a ton of points now, including myself. New Jersey City lost to Rowan. That's a battle of the top 25 teams. New Jersey City now at 5 losses already. We talked earlier this season about New Jersey City kind of playing with fire with their season right now. Wheaton lost earlier, but they beat North Park. Mount Union lost earlier in the week, but they beat Wilmington. Occidental it's coming apart. They lost to Redlands 101-97 and Pomona Pitzer this week. Illinois Wesleyan lost to Augustana. So Augustana had a tough week. Beat Wheaton and Illinois Wesleyan this week. That is a hats off to them. They beat Illinois Wesleyan by 22. I don't know what has happened to the Titans, but they don't look like the team we saw at the beginning of the season. Women's top 25 we'll recap later in the show. So there you go. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk men's basketball with Lynchburg. We mentioned they had a good week. That was a good week. Defeated Washington Lee 82-79 and then beat Eastern Mennonite, though that's a tougher game than expected, 78-66. We will talk to them about all of that. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Directors Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
to stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Sunday evening. If you got questions for the show, the guests, or whomever, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Now remember, on these Sunday evenings, we primarily talk Northeast, Atlantic, South, and Central regions, though that doesn't mean we don't have other guests on or talk about other topics. But those are our primary, and we can't hit all four usually. We're hitting all four tonight, which is why this show is going to go into overtime tonight. So we jump, and we're going to start tonight with the South region, and we're going to start with men's basketball in the ODAC. Beginning of the season, I thought, okay, Roanoke I think is going to be darn good this season, and I think they're going to be at the top of this conference. Randolph-Macon's probably going to be in that conversation as well. I think WNL will be improved, and Emory and Henry, we'll see how they recover from last year's amazing season. Will probably be in the conversation. Well, Lynchburg is at 8-1 in the conference, along with Randolph-Macon, and Lynchburg is at 17-1 overall. Guilford's at 7-2. Roanoke is 2 games back of the leaders, along with Virginia Wesleyan, and Washington Lee is 2.5 back, and Emory and Henry's 3 back. Not exactly what I thought it would be at this point in the season, especially from the Hornets, who have had some great seasons, don't get us wrong, but we're a little bit removed from that 23-7 run that they had. A little birdie told me in my head, he thought that they may be just as good as Ramapo was last season. That's pretty impressive. So we decided we had to talk to somebody. Hillary Scott will join us now on the Blue Frame Technology.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
Minutes for us last year, and you know, we had our whole team returning, and you know, expecting 4 seniors to play a lot for us. We had a first team all conference player coming back, and Connor Schroeder, and so I thought we had a chance to be good this year. I really did. And the unfortunate piece when you go into the season is you look around the league. You want to come in and get better and try to improve, and you hope your seniors play up to what you think they can play up to, and that's what our guys have been doing so far this year.
Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of an audio drop there as I was trying to set up our settings for the rest of the show. You didn't miss much of Coach, all about 5 seconds. So obviously the ODAC's a battle. We'll talk about that in a bit. And I think that, though, is why I'm a little surprised you're only at 1 loss, because I figured you'd take some hits in conference play. Your 1 loss is in conference action. It's Guilford, who has certainly shown to be a little bit more competitive this year than I think many had thought. But I look at the way you guys got through other conference games. You beat Emory and Henry near the beginning of the season, 87-66. You took out some other really good squads like Christopher Newport earlier this season. You got Emory and Henry back a second time, 87-73. And then you just went through Virginia Wesleyan, Washington Lee, and Eastern Mennonite. You are staying above the fray to some degree, and that is sometimes more important than anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is going to sound real cliche-ish, but, we have to look at one game at a time as you go through this gauntlet of the season, because if you don't, you'll get a headache, trying to figure out what you got coming up next and the possibilities. And, so we're really just trying to stay in the moment and try to get better each day. And like I said, our seniors have stepped it up this year, and they've found ways to make plays when we need to. Our guys are playing really well right now, but I think we haven't played our best basketball yet, to be honest with you. We've been consistent on the defensive end. I just think we can continue to get better on the offensive end as well. And our guys have really just bought into trying to do something that's never been done here at Lynchburg. So, we're going to enjoy this journey as well too. These kind of seasons and group of guys, and these things don't come around often. So, we're going to try to enjoy this journey as we go as well.
You think you could be better. That is always a scary thing to hear a coach say. Now, I do balance that with sometimes coaches say that because they want their team to be better. They're never as good as a coach expects them to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But we have some areas. We do have some areas we can continue to get better at, and hopefully we can do that.
So we talked about what you've already gone through in terms of a stretch in the ODAC. What you got up ahead, though, no joke. You'll be home against Guilford coming up on Wednesday. You'll be home against Randolph-Macon coming up on Saturday. And you'll be home against, or on the road against Roanoke after that.
Yep.
Granted, the rest of the schedule features Bridgewater, Ferrum, Shenandoah, and Hampden-Sydney. But those 3 games alone could do a lot to determine where things move for you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of my really good friends and best friends is a head coach at NC State, Kevin Keats, and got some assistant coaches that I know really well. And I was just on the phone with those guys yesterday, actually, and was talking to them about their game at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I was saying, well, who do you have next? And they've got I think they got Clemson, they've got Virginia Tech after that, and Carolina. I was like, it's the same thing, for us in the ODAC. It's a gauntlet, and every game is going to be tough, and it's a grind it out. And you've been around this league a long time, and you know that there's no, if you're not ready to play, you're going to get beat regardless if you're at home or on the road. And so we really, really try to take every practice, where we can get better, and just take one game at a time. Because if not, I'm going to add some years, to my life, and I really don't want to. I try to keep my hair low for a reason, Dave, because I don't want to, start losing it. So, yeah. So
I thought you already had lost it.
Well, that's why I keep it low. So we've got to really just kind of focus and laser focus into kind of the next task at hand, and just kind of go from there.
And when you look at what's ahead of you, and let's just talk about the conference real quick. Well, then we'll talk about what's ahead of you. The ODAC's always been competitive. We know that. There's been a lot of conversation that maybe the ODAC hasn't been as great as it has been. Well, the top is certainly taken a step back. But I think I was thinking about this week. It feels like the ODAC is just as competitive, if not as good as we've seen in the past, except it's different names. It's not Virginia Wesleyan. It's not Hampden-Sydney. Randolph-Macon's still in there, certainly. Guilford's returned into that conversation, but it's Lynchburg. It's Emory and Henry. It's Roanoke again. It feels like it may be the same old conference as we were used to, just different names.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of names. I mean, let's take Virginia Wesleyan, for instance. When we beat them last weekend, we were only one game apart in the conference.
Right.
So, it's just, I think it's, what's different. I played in this league a long time ago.
Right.
And I just think the parity in our league is just, it makes it tough night in and night out. And, everyone's recruiting. Everyone is on the road to try to find that next guy. And, we all have some good things to sell with our schools and programs. And so it makes Wednesdays and Saturdays extremely tough. And, so in some senses, I think because of the parity it may hurt us a little bit. You know what I mean? Just the sense that, you get out of this league with 4 or 5 losses, and you could have a chance of, finishing first or second in the league, depending on what year it is. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, I don't know if that helps us or hurts us. Because as the years have gone on, you mentioned some of those teams that kind of made the league top heavy, and the reasons why we were getting multiple teams in. But I hope we can get back to that. I think it's been 3 years now since we haven't had, 2 teams in, and I've been here. This is my 11th season. We've had 4 teams make the tournament twice since I've been here.
Yeah.
So, I think we can get back to that. But like you said, it seems to be different names, and I think it makes the league that much, more fun to be a part of. I know as coaches, if you can put together a good season and have a good group of guys come through, you got a chance to be successful with your talent. And we did it, got over the hump in 2016, and we're off to a really, really, I say good start. We're almost towards the end of the season, but we hope to continue some of the success that we have, and And you know, the sky's the limit. Really, for it's neat to come in this season to find out that you really actually have a chance to do something at the end of the year.
Talking to Hillary Scott here, head coach of the Lynchburg Hornets, 17th ranked in the country at 17-1, 8-1 in ODAC play. So what do you expect out ahead of you? You got Guilford at home, Randolph at Macon at home. Perfect place to run into both of them at home, especially Randolph-Macon in your only meeting this season. What are you expecting?
Another tough, grinded out, ball game. I mean,
that's cheating, Coach.
Yeah, we get used to that. We get used to that. I just think I expect another, tough, hardcore, physical, game of runs, and we just hope we have a chance to make the last one, at the end. And we're excited about, for you to be successful and have a chance to win championships, you gotta play good teams and beat good teams.
Yeah.
And we hope we're one of those teams at the end of the season that has a chance to continue to play. And in 2016 when we made it to the NCAA tournament, I think going through the gauntlet of the ODAC helped us. I know we talk to other coaches in the league. They get excited about actually having to play somebody else outside of the conference. You get tired of beating up on each other, so we hope that these games coming up will help us move forward. I feel like we're battle tested already. I know our guys are excited. We're back starting classes tomorrow, so we'll have our our student body and those things back in the mix, and hopefully we'll have a really good crowd this week. And our alumni day is on Saturday, so expect a bunch of my former players to come back, and so it should be exciting, man. This is what you play college basketball for. I tell these guys all the time, this is what you signed up for. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So so we should be excited, and like I mentioned to you before, David, this kind of team doesn't come around very often, so I want to make sure we're going to enjoy this run and see what happens.
You've got 5 seniors on the squad. 4 of them play pretty much start every game.
Yeah.
Led by Austin Wrighton at 18 points a game. Connor Schroeder's at 16, almost 17 points a game, really. Devontae Young at 7 points a game, and Jesse Case at 7. But then rebounding, Wrighton leads the way at 9. Schroeder's got 7. And then the other guys, I mean, assisting out at 3 more are young, and Case is nearly at 3. Those guys certainly are your catalyst, to say the least. They're the core. What makes them so good?
Yeah, I just think we've gone into this season to really make sure that we're a cohesive group. Our team chemistry is unbelievable, and that's what you tend to hear when you have some teams that win some games, and that's no different from with this group. Really cohesive, close group. It's good to have seniors who are repeating what the coaches are saying, and have bought in what the things that we need to improve on from last year. Our last season didn't go very well for what we would like with our program, and they didn't want a repeat of that. So, for things to be different, you got to do some things different. So that's what we did this year, and our seniors have led the way. It helps when your seniors are really producing the most for our team, and it's been good. But like I said, we had 1 senior last year who were playing significant minutes, so a lot of these guys took their lumps last year, learned from some of the losses that we had, learned from some of the wins we had, and I think we've just put it together, and they're really playing for each other, playing for the staff, playing for the school, all those things, and it's really been fun to watch.
This senior class is the group that was there when you guys got to the NCAA tournament last 3 years ago. You beat Scranton rather handily in the first game in Delaware, Ohio, and then Ohio Wesleyan thanked you for coming and showed you where the bus was to head home. Is that something that maybe drives this senior class as well?
Yeah, 2 of those guys were on that team. Austin Wrighton and Devontae Young were on that team. Didn't play very much at all, so it definitely fuels them for sure. To make another run at it. that was a close game we lost at Ohio Wesleyan. We came down to the last possession, and you know, I think those guys learned. You know, you can learn a lot from watching as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, they saw how close we were.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to get back to it. They want to make their own mark. And you know, one of the themes that we've talked about all season is really just trying to, you know, do something that's never been done and really, create your own path. And I think they've really bought into that. And so being a part of that team, they can tell some of the other guys who haven't been in that situation
mm-hmm.
before to really show them what it takes to get there.
Sure.
That class, I had an unbelievable senior class in 2016 as well. I mean, first team All-American, and Austin Arnold was first team All-Conference player, and Zach Burnett was an All-Conference player. He ended up being an All-American the next year, and so we had a really good core group of guys that year as well, and they set the tone for how things were to be done on and off the court. And I think Devontae and Austin really learned from that group, and they're implementing a lot of those things this year and adding their own mix to it.
Well, it's been fun to watch the Hornets so far, see what you guys have been doing. I'll admit, surprised me to some degree, but you're up on the pole now, and you guys are no longer under that radar, as it were.
Right.
Looking forward to seeing how you guys get through this gauntlet. Obviously, Guilford and Randolph making ahead. And we're looking forward to the finish of the ODAC, obviously, in Salem as well. And we hope you nothing but good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those maybe tuning in?
Yeah, number one, again, just thanks for having me on, and any chance we can get to talk about our program and the guys. We always love to do it. This has been an unbelievable group. Again, I feel like we have some room to improve, and so we're excited about the end of the season, heading into kind of the meat of what's going on here, and things are going to start to separate, and hopefully we're in the mix. But I really appreciate you having us on tonight.
Oh, absolutely. I've just had to find the right time to get you guys on. It's a matter of rotations, and I'm glad you guys are available, and good luck the rest of the way. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. It. Hillary Scott joining us on. There we go. Hillary Scott joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, presented by Blue Frame Technology. Thank him for taking the time in doing so. Lynchburg appears to be darn good, and that conference is once again a battle on top. Virginia Wesleyan against 2 out. That's a familiar name to people. Guilford's 1 out. That's a familiar name to people. Hampden-Sydney may not be the same program, but this is a deeper conference than it's been, and it has certainly been a thrill. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. We'll take a break. When we return, we will keep up with the men's theme and talk about another team that's on top of a conference that maybe not everybody expected. That's not always true. I know a few people certainly thought the best out of this program, but I think at the same time, Rowan, the profs, are maybe surprising a few. We'll talk to Joe Crispin coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
Love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
I'm Cole Vivian, head women's basketball coach at Merida College and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I want to thank the WBCA for their support. I guess we're going to have to raise the volume of that last one. I want to thank Messiah. Was that Messiah? No, that was somewhere. Who was? Oh, never mind. We'll figure it out later. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're simulcasting the show there. We're also simulcasting it on Twitter, on Periscope. Yeah, I think I can keep up with all that. We saw a question. Somebody said, one person said they were glad they got all their yard work done. No snow in central Washington. Daryl, we're somewhat jealous, though I love the snow. Dan Tome, talking about Oshkosh. Yes, Oshkosh with a big weekend over La Crosse. We didn't mention that earlier, though he says La Crosse should be ranked. I probably would agree with you. And then Robert wants us to talk about something that our good friend Bob Quillman posted in the boards about. He was already taking a stab at bracketing and stuff. Listen, Robert, we might, Ryan and I, at the end of the show, try and tackle that. That feels like a rabbit's hole right now, but we might take a stab at it. We'll see. All right, let's keep our conversation going in men's basketball, and we jump back up into the Atlantic region now and talking about a team like Lynchburg that I don't think I really had on my radar at the beginning of the season, and maybe I should have. We talked at the beginning of January, having talked to Chuck McBreen in Vegas about the NJAC, and he talked about this team. They certainly have played well, and a win yesterday over New Jersey City to now take co-lead of the conference with New Jersey City at 8-3. They are 14-4, and the Profs are playing well. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Skype Hoopsville hotline, it is Joe Crispin, the head coach of the aforementioned Profs. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Absolutely. Last year, 13-13, 9-9, but we saw signs that you guys had a good team under you. You had your moments. But did you, and I'll say the same thing I asked Hillary, did you expect to be at 14-4 right now and atop the NJAC?
I got to be honest, I expected us to be better. I got a good group. I got depth. We have a lot of options. I think we've had 8 guys lead us in scoring at some point in a game. And, you know, we hit a snag early in the year. We lost 3 in a row, but we were missing 2 senior starters. And, you know, I like to think I'm a good coach, but I guess I'm not that good because we lost them right in a row without them. We got them back, and we've been pretty strong ever since.
Yeah, pretty strong to say the least. We should point out, and you kind of hinted it there, the 4 losses came in three of those 4 losses came in a stretch. You lost New Jersey City, TCNJ, and Stockton. Not in that order. It was TCNJ, New Jersey City, Stockton. And about end of November into December. Then got the win over Ramapo, and that's where you've been rolling since. The only blemish being the end of December against F&M. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Now you've got kind of your strength back to some degree?
Yeah, I mean, we had Robbie DePerge, who's our starting point guard, and Deron Curry was out for 2 weeks, and he had 27 yesterday against Jersey City. So I mean, what do you do? I mean, they're two of our emotional leaders, our senior guys. I mean, I have 5 seniors, and those guys are between my 3 guards, they're very attack oriented. So you can't really shift your identity for a week, and we were without them for about a week and a half or so, and we got him back, and I was a good coach again.
It's amazing how that works,
Magic.
Joe.
Magic. I think it was good for us, though. It really did get our attention. I think it got our attention, put our backs against the wall a little bit. Our guys have had high goals. They do have a lot of confidence, but they're still figuring out how good they can be. And I still think, we had a bad first half yesterday, and they realized, whoa, we weren't playing rowing basketball, and you figure it out, and then all of a sudden you come back strong, and they are capable of doing so.
Yeah, you guys ended up shooting 50% from the field, 30% from beyond the arc, though 57% from the free throw line. Curious how much time they're going to be spending on the free throw line for the next few weeks.
At this point, I might just ignore it and see if it just gets better. I mean, I think I might emphasize it too much. They might be overthinking the thing. But we came out like gangbusters in the second half, and the NJAC is just an incredibly difficult conference, seeing everyone twice. So we know each other well. It gets physical. It's tough. But we have guys who have been there before, and it makes a big difference when you get in those situations. They know what they got to do to be successful.
Interesting. The first half, it was 36-23 New Jersey City. The second half, I still am looking at twice to understand it. It was 61-44. That's final scores in regular games sometimes.
Yeah, I have an explosive group. I mean, they have a ton of confidence. They can score. We get up and down. Again, with depth, you can really shuffle in some guys and have some guys come off the bench and perform well. And they got confidence. I mean, I know I got a confidence in every guy on my roster, and I like to tell them, there's guys that barely play some night that could have 20 points the next. And we try to give them that opportunity, see what's working. We still lean on our best players night in, night out. But there's always 1 or 2 guys that step up that probably barely make the scouting report because we usually play 10, 11, 12.
Interesting. Again, the win 84-80 makes the conference race a little bit more interesting. We'll backdoor into the conference race in a moment. Let's keep talking about the team. You mentioned Nick Parizia leads the team at 14.5 points a game. Assists per game is 3. He's one of the top steal guys for this squad as well. Shoots pretty decently, though. Again, he might be the guy you want to send to the free throw line. Deron Curry is 13.5 points a game. Raymond Wright at 10, 11 points a game. And then 2 guys in Rob DePrizia and Connor Dickerson, who are actually just a shade under 10 points a game. Everybody rebounds, though Wright gets the most per game. Feels like a very balanced team. And I know in NJAC play, that's really what you want, but that's also dangerous when you go outside the NJAC.
Yeah, I like to tell our guys that, we want to be the kind of team that even if you scout us, it's tough to predict who's going to step up on a given night. Nick had an off night. He's our leading scorer. Mm-hmm. He stepped up for us most of the season. He had an off night. Deron steps up. Connor Dickerson steps up. A few guys step up off the bench. And, when you go to a scouting report and you got to list 10, 11 players and the 10th guy might have 15, I think it makes it more difficult. It requires our guys to be unselfish, kind of emotionally tough because they have to kind of deal with sometimes, you go a couple games off the bench and you don't get a ton of looks and then you have a breakout. Depending on matchups, we like to get up and down and take advantage of matchups we think work. So we have a diverse team, personality-wise, position-wise. So we like to use it, and it's been successful when we've had everybody there. That's for sure.
Yeah, it has. Absolutely has. Outscoring your opponents by 11 points a game, though you're getting out-rebounded on average by about a rebound and a half or 2, though you have almost twice as many assists as everybody else, 17 rebounds or assists to 10 assists per game. Is the rebounding number overrated? Are you worried that you're not maybe getting as many boards as you need to?
Certain games, maybe it's important. We usually make up for it with turnovers. It's just kind of our makeup. We have, very instinctual, quick guards. We're usually in a full court press, so we're able to make up for it and rebound. We feel like if we can stay even and be consistently right there in the rebounding category, we make up for it with turnovers. And as long as we limit our own, we feel pretty good about it. And so far, we've had success on that. I mean, except for that early season streak where we were kind of a different team without those two guys.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the core of our identity, loosening up the game. And, we have enough size, but at our core, we play pretty fast. And that's how we like it.
Besides the conference, you have some interesting games, though. They all took place right around Christmas. That kind of gives everybody kind of a sense of who you guys are. You had Salisbury, where I think it kind of started to show us the kinks in the armor with the Seagulls. You then had Keene State on the other side of Christmas at F&M, and then F&M tripped you up. What did that stretch of games mean to the program, and what happened in the F&M game specifically?
Well, I think, the guys in our group as a whole, I mean, there's a learning group. I think, they have high aspirations, and I've tried to set up our schedule to learn myself as a head coach, but also have my team learn what they need to do to be one of the better teams in the country. And I think that little stretch for us was great. You talk about 3 out-of-conference teams that are all very competitive year in, year out. And that last stretch, I mean, F&M at home is no joke. They're tough, they're gritty. It was a high turnover fest. You come out of the game and it's the second day in a row after a break. Ours was minimal, but it was still effective.
Sure.
And it was, we turned them over 34 times. I mean, we were running around like gangbusters. But I got to the end of the game and we had too many ourselves, but I got to the end of the game and said, you know what? Our guys are shooting 38% from 3, and we missed a bunch of open shots. And, I used to say as a player, I didn't want to lose myself in coach explanations of games where I lose myself in the stat sheet. We missed 21 threes, and we had 18 of them listed as good shots. Sometimes that's the way it goes. So You slap the guys on the butt. You say you played your tails off. You did a great job defensively. You'll make some next weekend. And fortunately, it worked out that way.
If you make them the next weekend, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to respond and you got to relax. And we play kind of that style of game where we feel confident we're going to figure out a way to score points, even if we end up with 23 in the first half like we did yesterday.
Yeah.
We got enough firepower that if we can just stay relaxed, sometimes you get on the road and our guys know they're playing for something. They really do believe it. You can get tight. You can think you got to make them as a shooter. You got to just let that thing go. And if it goes in, great. And if it doesn't, you got to shoot the next one.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we did that yesterday.
This conference is interesting. You've got 7 teams above 500, including the top 6. Rutgers Newark, the other one, they're 9-8, though they're 7-0 in non-conference play, 2-8 in conference action.
Yep.
William Patterson, Ramapo, TCNJ, Montclair, who's been in the conversation, along with Jersey City and yourselves. We've talked about the NJAC always been tough. We talk about the top of the NJAC always being tough. It feels to me, though, the NJAC may be turning a tide a little bit, and it feels like it's the younger coaches like yourself and kind of helping turn that tide. Like the schedules are slightly changing. The recruiting feels like it's changing. And as a result, the top of the conference has changed, and now maybe the NJAC's being taken more seriously. Fair assessment?
I think it's fair, and I hope that is the case. I have learned a lot over the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, since I retired from playing and got into coaching, I've been getting in a Division III basketball education just like anybody else. And I've had to ask Coach Cassidy numerous times, like, is this brutal or what? I mean, I think one of the things that struck me about the conference, I'm a Big Ten guy back in the day, and
we're trying not to hold it against you.
I know, right? And we used to say, like, when you had to go to Michigan State on one night and then you had to go to Wisconsin the next, it's not just who you're playing or where you're playing, it's how they play.
Yeah.
And, I've experienced that with this conference. It's one thing, when you go to Jersey City, like, you better be ready to battle. And they are going to say the same thing about coming to us. And then you might have a little free-flowing game against Stockton that's different. And there's a diversity of style of plays that make it tough. But, one of my arguments to our guys is like, listen, if you can prove you're the best team in this conference, you're going to be prepared to beat people elsewhere. And I think that's proven to be the case. I think the coaches as a whole schedule down, and we talk about it. We all have good relationships within the conference, have done a great job. I think Ramapo was a great team the last couple years, scheduled well, performed well in the NCAA tournament. And, our guys look around and say, we can do that. We can play with those teams. They can play with those teams. We want to be better. So we've tried to do that. And I think so far it's proven to be the case. And it's going to be no joke over the next 2 to 3 weeks in the NJAC. That's for sure.
Did Ramapo getting to the championship weekend give the rest of the conference maybe a shot in the arm? I mean, this conference has struggled, as we've talked about a lot, to get out of the second weekend, let alone the first round of the tournament. And it's been Stockton to do it twice this century. All of a sudden, Ramapo goes on a heck of a run and gets there. Did that kind of tell the rest of the conference, wait a minute, we do have the capabilities of competing on the national stage?
I think so. I mean, I think, I had a group last year that was 500, struggled through a lot of things. I kind of knew it was a 2-year team, and I told them that, like, listen, this is the first half of a 2-year season, is the way I put it with that group. But, we were right there with Ramapo. We were up 10 with 8 minutes left twice. And I know for my group, I've been telling them, you're not far away. And I really believe that in the Division III landscape, you're not as far away from the top teams as you think. And sometimes that your kids think when you're sitting there 500. And I think to see Ramapo have success, for our guys to think to themselves, listen, we're better than we were last year. And that's what they did. It kind of takes the ceiling off. It raises the ceiling, or it takes the lid off the expectations. And it gives your kids a chance to really realize that they can play with people. And that's just, here at Rome, we haven't been to the NCAA tournament since 2000. So that mindset of recognizing you can play with anyone is just as important as all your X's and O's and everything else. And I'm drumming that. I believe it, but unless they believe it,
yeah,
what's it worth, right?
Sure.
And I think they're starting to see it's the case.
We mentioned TCNJ and Ramapo and Stockton, all them. You still got 7 conference games to go before this regular season per se is over and we get into conference tournament action, and it's a gauntlet. I mean, you got TCNJ for a rematch, you've got Ramapo in a rematch, Stockton, Montclair, those teams are all in the conversation to some degree. Stockton maybe not as much, but William Patterson's after that. This is going to be anything but an easy finish, not that we expected otherwise. So what's the message you're delivering to the team in the locker room?
It's one game at a time, and it really is. I mean, that's just kind of how I operate. I don't even know standings until you mention it or until somebody tells me. I don't even pay attention to it. My goal for this group is to be the best they can possibly be this week, then next week better, and the week after that, learning, growing. And the big thing for us is it's just attack mode. I don't want our kids so focused on winning a basketball game that they forget how to just attack and play and go for it and enjoy it. So that's where my message is. It's like we got a game on Wednesday at TCNJ. We got a game on Saturday at Ramapo. Both great tests, great opportunities to compete, and go for it. And you lose, but if you lose swinging. We had a couple early where we're missing our guys, and you could sense it. We were playing kind of not to lose, and I said never again. That's not how I go. That's not how we go, and you never enjoy playing that way, in my opinion. So I think they've gotten that. I'm hoping they continue just to build on that, and I think if we're able to do that and sense that, things will take care of themselves.
Wrapping things up here with Joe Crispin, head coach of Rowan, who is at 14-4, 8-3 in NJAC play. Of course, Coach, you can't have them all at home, but at least it's an even split the rest of the way. 3 of the 4 will be at home. The next 2, though, will be on the road. How important will home be, though, if you can host the tournament?
Yeah, and that's one of our guys' goals. I mean, our seniors sat down before the year, and we wrote them down. Every single one of their goals, they wanted to play at home in the NJAC tournament. It's a huge advantage. I mean, you know, when you got to go to some of these places and play, like, and I know it's an advantage for us. So, you know, it's why we feel the same way going at Montclair or at Ramapo or at Jersey City or at TCNJ. So, you know, you're playing for that, and, you know, you're playing to prove, you know, that you're the best team, and every team should believe that. My group believes it. You know, we started 1-3 in the conference. So, you know, they still feel like they got their backs against the wall, and frankly, I want them to feel that way the rest of the season. Your back's against the wall, you got to fight your way out, and, you know, I think they will.
If it works psychology-wise, go for it. There should be no qualms.
I don't know anything else. I was a gunner myself, and I just said, hey, you got to go for it. And as kids embrace that message, I think they enjoy it all the more anyway. And you're going to drop some. Oh, sure. But, you know, you enjoy the journey and go for it. And that's kind of been our identity from the get-go. And I think if we can continue to do that, that's who we want to be. It's what we want to build on anyway. So it'll be good to go.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us, especially via Skype, to chat about the profs and the NJAC and certainly the test ahead. We wish you luck. We certainly are going to be watching the NJAC with a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see if you guys can pop into the top 25 this week. Who knows? You never know.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I know. It'd be nice maybe if you got some votes.
You know, I often tell our guys too, Dave, I don't give a rip about top 25 until March.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I used to say that as a player, as a coach, to say, hey, let's be the best we can be and play in March. If you can play in March, you'll be fine with anything you get.
True. Hey, as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
So, you know, all the coaches, all the players, enjoy it. You know, enjoy what you got this week. It's fun to compete. It's fun to be playing basketball, college basketball in February. And I have to remind myself often, you get caught up in game to game. It's a great game, and it's meant to be enjoyed. So the week ahead, enjoy it.
Well, enjoy it then, Coach.
I'll try.
We'll look forward to talking to you down the road. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Joe Crispin joining us from Rowan on the Blue Frame Technologies Skype Hoopsville hotline. Again, 14-4, 7 games to play at Ramapo or at TCNJ, then at Ramapo this upcoming week. Then at home against Stockton, at Montclair as we turn into February. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll go down to Philadelphia area. NABC Coach's Corner. Talk about giving back on Martin Luther King holiday. It's Cabrini and some others who are doing that. We'll talk to them coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
UW Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic Health System are creating amazing opportunities for students from across the Midwest. Our collaborative research agreement allows students to work with world-renowned physicians and scientists. And with more than 80 majors, UW Eau Claire is the perfect fit for those who dream big and are ready to change the world.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. On this Sunday evening, the evening of Martin Luther King Day. If you have the day off tomorrow, enjoy it. Some basketball games may be played tomorrow. I know the one I was supposed to be working yesterday on Saturday was postponed to Monday due to the inclement weather expected. Most of Pennsylvania shutting down or not allowed to travel, forced Moravian not to travel down to Baltimore on Saturday. Of course, turns out down here we didn't get much of a storm. They could have come down just fine, but whether they would have gotten back, I don't know. But so if you're celebrating it with that way or you're celebrating giving back, whatever the case may be, we hope you enjoy the day in any way, shape, or form that you can. On Sunday nights, we have the NABC Coaches Corner, and part of that segment, along with the WBCA segment on Thursday, is about what coaches are doing outside of basketball. They may be doing other things, may be involved in other efforts, or in this case, they're also giving back to their community. There's several schools, Gwynedd Mercy being one of them, but also Cabrini, that are hosting Hoops from the Heart Basketball Clinic on MLK Day. Their annual clinic for kids from 1st to 8th grade will be taking place in Radnor, Pennsylvania, at Cabrini's campus from 9 a.m. to noon. And we've thought it was the perfect thing to talk about here on the show, especially in the Coaches Corner. And so joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of Cabrini. It is Tim McDonald. And sir, welcome to the Coaches Corner, and thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
We'll talk a little bit about the team. Obviously, an interesting season. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I really want to dive into this effort that you guys are doing. First off, you got basketball players of your team getting up before 9 a.m. on a day. That's probably a day off to host this event. But more importantly, you're also holding this event on MLK Day. This isn't just some clinic. This isn't a clinic that's helping the team. It's not helping assistant coaches. This is helping the community. This is more than just basketball.
Correct. This is the Hoops from the Heart is something that Bobby Morgan, the women's coach at Haverford, started, helped and brought it to Cabrini, I believe, back in 2002. And our women's coach, Kate Pearson, has really kept that going since Bobby has left. But it is a great day for us. Like you said, our guys have off from class tomorrow, as well as the women's team. They are there by about 8:30 tomorrow, and they have a great time with it. I mean, they work with the youth of the community. They do a bunch of different drills with the young guys and girls from grades 1 through 8. But we talk to our guys all the time about having to serve others, not just having people serve you. And one of the things that they get to do, they really get to give back during this. It's our Martin Luther King Day of service. It benefits the Community Action Agency of Delaware County, which is the local community around Cabrini. So it is a great organization that we've had the luck to work with over the past 15 years or so. So it's definitely something that I'm excited for every year.
Yeah, thanks, by the way. I said Gwynedd Mercy. I meant Haverford and Bobby Morgan. They are the other ones we did notice. And we've had Bobby on the show quite a bit, and we appreciate her service, certainly, with this idea. it sounds like it was a no-brainer. To much, and you mentioned it goes to the Community Action Agency. I don't mean this. It's going to maybe sound a little more callous than I mean it to. But do you have to convince the players? Does you know what I'm saying? Do you have to say, guys, this is important, I need you there, or is this one of those where it's not even that? They're there for you, even if you didn't have to tell them about it.
Yeah, they're there for this. They really love working with the kids. It's such a fun day for them. It's something that I think some of them don't even realize that these kids come in and they really look up to our players and the women's team, and they serve as role models to them. And they don't necessarily realize that on a day-by-day basis. But in the camp setting, having the kids there, they really buy in, and I mean, they really enjoy the day. It's not something that we're begging them to get there for, begging them to get up and work with the kids. They come in, they have a great time working with them. Education's a big major at Cabrini. We have a couple guys on our team, and I know there's a few on the women's team as well that are used to working with youth. The other guys on our team and some of the other women are not as used to it, but as soon as they get started, they jump in, they're very comfortable with it, and have a great time during the day with this. Yeah, we should point out again, men's and women's teams participating. We just happen to make it part of the NABC Coaches Corner here this evening. We could have done it Thursday on the WBCA segment just as easily. You talk, obviously, everyone pays a fee, and the proceeds, as we mentioned, is going towards the Community Action Agency. But there's also an element where everyone has to bring a perishable food. Knowing these events, it's probably more than just one item is always brought by people. But what's the goal with that ultimately? Yeah, so the Community Action Agency, they use the proceeds raised for this to benefit programs for them that helps out with emergency housing, social services, employment training, life skills training. What they do, we collect the non-perishable items in these giant boxes, and they get filled up. Like you said, we ask everyone to bring at least one, and most people bring a bag full of stuff. Yeah. So we donate to them, and they can put it to the best use that they need it for those in need. Why that group, I guess, would be one idea. And have you thought that, has it gotten big enough that this could go to other groups, or is it a rotational thing? How do you guys do all of that, I guess, is where I'm getting. Well, the Community Action of Delaware County, they help us put this together. They put everything together for it. It benefits them. That's what the whole thing started for with them. How many schools do you, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but how many is this spread? I mean, obviously Bobby's idea spread because Haverford and Cabrini that I know are doing it. Do you know of others who are participating? I know Newman University does it. I know Jim Rullo has it going. I'm not sure of any others. I'm sure there are other local schools that do it. I just happen to know the three of us do that. I was going to say, it feels like a very Philadelphia thing. Yes, it is. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what makes it maybe even more special to some degree, because you're all on MLK Day making sure to find the time to give back to that Philadelphia community. Yeah, I mean, it is a great community. Obviously, basketball is huge around here at every level, youth leagues, high school, college, pro, you name it. Basketball is the biggest sport around outside of the NFL with the Eagles. But basketball is something that really you can talk about it to just about anyone in the community, and they're going to relate to it at whatever level you're talking about. So it is great to kind of give back during the day, but also including that basketball element, which is such an important identity in Philadelphia. And how soon afterward are you putting on a full practice with the guys? We are about a half hour, right at 12:30. So they're off from class tomorrow. So instead of having them come back later in the day, we're going to jump right in at 12:30 for them. In the meantime, the women's team's like, "Hey, I wanted that time." Yeah, actually, I think they wanted the little break in between. I think they'll go eat and then they'll come back right after us. So it could go either way. Some years we've had really good practices right after it. Sometimes they're a little tired from being on their feet so long. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, they're college students. They didn't want to be up early anyway, and you got them up early on a day off. It also probably helps kind of forget the season. Now, granted, you guys are on a 3-game winning streak, beat Wesley, Immaculata, and Newman. You got Marymount and Gwen and Mercy ahead of you guys. But it's been let's be honest, it's been a rough season in 5-13, though you're 3-2 in conference play, a new conference also. It's been an interesting year for you guys. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I kept saying whatever could go wrong was going wrong with us.
Sure.
We thought we had a pretty talented and a deep team, which I think we do now, but we've had guys in and out of the lineup with injuries. We lost one of our guys that we thought was going to be a starting guard right in August, had a career-ending knee injury. So he was one of the guys that we thought was going to play the point as well as off the ball as well. But then we had two guys coming back from ACL tears that weren't as explosive as we thought they were going to be right away. And then one of them, Devontae Mosley, is a senior for us. We thought we had him coming back. He came back for the first 2 games and re-injured his knee. Luckily, it wasn't season-ending, and he came back about 4 games ago. And I think him coming back has really kind of turned our season around. I mean, the guys are really – everyone's healthy right now. He comes in. He's just a solid player. He does everything right in every aspect of the game. And our guys have really committed themselves to just trying to enjoy the process of getting better every day. And I think it's finally starting to pay off for us. And we're playing, obviously, the 3-game win streak, playing the best basketball we have all year. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the new conference been like? The new Atlantic East, which, if anybody's not paying attention, finally took shape this year. And you guys are in the mix with it. Obviously, there's Gwinnett Mercy and Marywood, Wesley, Immaculata, Marymount, and Newman. We should point out, by the way, if anyone's counting at home, Gwinnett Mercy and Marywood are having the top seasons right now at 5-0 and 4-0. But what's it like to kind of settle into a new yet old feel? I mean, some of these teams you kind of already knew well from the CSAC.
Yeah, obviously we knew the 4 other teams from the CSAC pretty well, so there wasn't much of a change there. And we knew Wesley. We played them about 4 years ago in a non-conference game, so familiar with Wesley as well, the one team that haven't been around as much as Marymount, and so we'll get our first taste with them on Wednesday night. But the conference is really exciting. I think everyone's kind of bought in. We have a lot of like schools that I think it's going to be really competitive for us, not just this year, but in the future as well. So it was exciting, and it was a little bit of a change, but something that we're moving forward with and really going to try to enjoy the process of it.
I don't know if it's going to matter much, but if you put thought in the fact that there's no automatic bid at the end of this season or next season, that's kind of more of a free-for-all for you for the conference?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Obviously, before the season, we thought about it a lot more, knowing that there wasn't going to be that automatic bid. Right now, with the season that we're having, our focus has really just been to try and get better every day and really try to compete for the conference title at the end of the year. And right now, we're kind of right in the mix. I think we're right in 3rd place at 3-2, 2 games behind Marywood and Gwinnett Mercy. So we're right in the thick of things, and I think if we continue to improve, we'll have a chance at the end of the year. And while obviously we don't have the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament, winning the conference this year on the first year would be a great thing for our guys, especially our 6 seniors who have put in a ton of work and wish we could have had a better start to our season than we have. But we're just going to try and finish it out the right way and hopefully be able to come out on top of the league.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about the community service event. I look forward to having you back on the show sometime in the future to talk more about the squad and the season, as it were. But nonetheless, the community service certainly means a lot for not only the segment, but certainly your community and the greater good of Division III. And so I thank you for your time. Before we let you go, though, a couple quick questions we always ask our NABC guests. And to have a little fun, but also hear the same question but answered differently, if you don't mind, sometime. First part is best part of coaching in Division III.
Best part of coaching in Division III. That's always a great question. I think the experience of that work-life balance. I mean, we don't have the year-round commitment to it, but also we have guys that come in that can really focus on their academic side of things as well as the basketball side of things, where it's not a year-round commitment for them where they might be able to put off academics till the summer or whatever. They're here in the fall and the spring, and they really focus in on that, and they get to enjoy their summer. So I think that's probably the best aspect is the academic and basketball balance.
Biggest pet peeve as a coach?
From our players or from other coaches?
Good question. I don't know. I leave it open to you, sir.
I'll go with the players. I think my biggest pet peeve is when we make the same mistake twice. Talk about it all the time with our guys is trying to create new mistakes so we have teachable moments with them. And when we continue to make the same mistakes over and over, that becomes a huge pet peeve of mine.
I can understand that. Now I'm intrigued with the other one, but we'll wait. and get that answer another time. Is there a rule or nuance to the game that you love?
A rule that I love.
Or a nuance to the game, something along those lines.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I love about the game is the three-point line. I think it really changed the dynamic of the game. I know that it kind of took away the mid-range shot a lot, especially right now, but the analytics and the three-point shot are something that I absolutely love about the game of basketball.
Okay. What rule would you like to see either added, changed, or removed?
Well, for men's basketball, I'd love for us to go to the quarters. I know we're the only level of basketball in the world that plays 2 halves and not 4 quarters. So that's something that I would like to see changed, and kind of similar to the women's rule in the NBA where you could advance the ball at the end of halves and the end of games with timeouts. I think that just adds another layer, another aspect to the game where it could be teachable moments for our guys, and I would love to have that.
Anybody who was listening to the NABC Coaches Corner last week will know why we're not at quarters just yet. That said, you lost me on the advancement, but we'll talk another time.
No problem.
Wife, significant other, or friend, what would they say they wish you would do differently on the bench?
Ooh, that's a great question. My girlfriend would probably tell me I have a little tick where I look like I'm biting my shoulder at times when I get really intense, and she would tell me I need to stop doing that. That would definitely be it.
Outstanding.
I know that's a funny one that I don't know how many people know about, but I know it's something that we always joke about. And
we're going to see it now.
Absolutely. If you're paying attention, that's something that you'll notice for sure.
On the flip side of that, what would your assistants want you to change?
Oh, that's a good question. My assistants would, maybe give them a little bit more involvement in games, maybe substitutions, maybe something like that. I know that they love bringing advice to me, bringing strategies to me. A lot of times I listen to them and make my own call, but I think the substitution pattern is something that I've given them a little bit more freedom with, but I'm sure they would like to have some more with that as well.
Okay. What can you say to an official that won't get you a technical? Like walks you right up to the line, but doesn't get you over it.
Great job. No, I'm just kidding. I would. It's a tough balance to work. I mean, I know they're right 50% of every call and wrong 50% of every call. So I do my best to just try and let them know what I saw and try to stay out of it as much as I can. I try to not cross the line too much with officials. I know they have a tough job, but sometimes you got to say certain things, and I just try to just don't curse at them. When you do that, you're definitely going to get a technical.
Yeah, absolutely. Magic words. Magic words result in T's.
Finally,
when you retire, and all good coaches do, what do you hope people will remember you as a coach?
I hope the guys that played for me, I hope they remember us for having great relationships with our players. I mean, that's one of the aspects within our program that we really try to talk about all the time and show all the time, is having that family aspect within our guys and growing lifelong relationships. So hopefully that's something that I would be remembered for.
Well, that's something we'll remember as well. We appreciate you taking the time to join us, talk about the MLK efforts, and, of course, the squad just there a little bit, and have fun with us as well. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share, those tuning in?
Well, I wish all the coaches out there the best of luck with the rest of the season. Hope everyone stays healthy, has a great rest of the year. One thing I didn't get to mention about the Martin Luther King Day Clinic is our women's coach, Kate Pearson. She's the one that kind of organizes everything. So hats off to her for getting. She's the go-to. She gets everything scheduled, everything set up, and I kind of just get our guys there and help out run the day of the clinic. But she does all the behind the scenes and organizing stuff ahead of time. So thanks to her for her efforts as well.
Well, we'll thank Kate for the efforts and allowing us to talk to you about it. Not to steal any spotlight from her. We'll get her on sometime in the future to talk about it as well. Tim, thanks so much for the time. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Tim McDonald joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline in the NABC Coaches Corner. Of course, NABC been a longtime supporter of Hoopsville. We appreciate their support and their assistance in these segments. If you got a coach you think deserves to be spotlighted in the NABC Coaches Corner, email us, and we'll see about whether we can get them on, if we have had them on, or should they get on, all that jazz. Let us know about them as well. take another break. When we come back, jump out to the Central region. We'll talk to the CCIW commissioner. Chris Martin will join us. Talk about his pending retirement, the upcoming NCAA convention, but more importantly, his take on the men's and women's basketball races. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Back with more Hoopsville when we return.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
UW Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic Health System are creating amazing opportunities for students from across the Midwest. Our collaborative research agreement allows students to work with world-renowned physicians and scientists. And with more than 80 majors, UW Eau Claire is the perfect fit for those who dream big and are ready to change the world.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Sunday evening. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. We did this in December, and we're going to try and change things up. A reminder, we talk about the Central Region on Sunday evenings, and we decided, I honestly couldn't make up my mind where I wanted to go this week in the Central. There were a few different directions. We could talk to some programs we haven't talked to a little bit, like Wisconsin Lutheran and whatnot, and women's basketball. No, Wisconsin Lutheran, I'm confusing two names there. Concordia, Wisconsin, and Bethany Lutheran and Wisconsin Lutheran. That's what I was trying to say. Lots of different angles we could go there, but I really was intrigued with the CCIW. Wanted to talk about them, but we've already had the men on, and the women I wanted to kind of wait a little. Well, then I remembered we've got Chris Martin, the commissioner. He usually has some interesting thoughts on the conference when he and I have chatted in the past. And with the NCAA convention coming up, I figured, and his final season, we should talk to Chris. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Skype Hoopsville hotline is the aforementioned Chris Martin. Sir, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Dave, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. First and foremost, let's talk just CCIW. One thing I was thinking about when I knew I was going to have you on was It is amazing how the CCIW is always in the conversation in almost any sport that I cover. Football, the CCIW's got some players. Soccer, basketball, now lacrosse CCIW teams are in these conversations. And, of course, every other darn sport. How has the CCIW become so consistently good in so many sports?
Well, Dave, I wish I could say it was all because of me, because that's certainly not the case. But you've hit at one of the prides of joy of being in the CCIW is, our institutions, our administrators, our coaches, our student athletes are so committed to all of our sports. So we have such a breadth and depth of strength across all of those sports that you mentioned. It's amazing to me, and I've been doing this for 17 years, that I continue to scratch my head and amazed at how good we are across the board. Just as you mentioned, not just football, basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, volleyball, all of those sports. It really is just a commitment by our administrators, our presidents, our student athletes, and our coaches. We have such great coaches in our conference that work so hard and take such pride in what they're doing. And I really think that translates to our kids, and both on the male and female side. That's why our strength just goes across all those sports that you mentioned, that I mentioned as well.
Yeah, it's certainly impressive, and I know it's not the easiest thing to run from a commissioner's point of view. You've got a lot of big programs, as it were, who probably have lots of big thoughts. By the way, I didn't even mention track and field in that conversation.
Absolutely, Dave. I was just talking to some of the media this past week, and they were joking that I think commissioner years are like dog years. So it's like one commissioner year is like 7 years in dog years. But that's what makes it fun in that regard.
What's it like, though, to balance those egos? And I don't mean egos in a bad way, but just those programs and those Augustanas, the Illinois Wesleyan, all those, and do what's not only right for them, because they've hired you and they want a certain way of things done, while also balancing what's right for the entire conference, but at the same time, even with the mindset of Division III on the outside influencing you as well.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge, Dave, and obviously having done this for 17 years, it still continues to be a challenge. But I think we speak about the quality of the coaches that we have and the understanding that they have and our athletic directors have, that makes those conversations a little easier than you would think. Clearly, I'm the one person to the largest extent is thinking about everybody, and the occasional reminder, hey, let's think about not just how this impacts your program, but the other, 8 programs in our conference. I think people really understand that and have a pretty good sense of the global view. And I've worked really hard over my time to really be transparent in my decision making. And I think that's gone a long way for the folks in our conference who understand they have a role in the process and they have an opportunity and a voice. The decision may not be what they had a voice for, but they clearly understand that that's part of my job in being the conference commissioner. But again, having that sort of true depth of the conference view and what's good for one is good for everybody really makes those conversations a little easier to manage.
You haven't been fired in those 17 years, so obviously they understood to some degree, and you probably had to say no on your fair share of times.
Yes, for sure. I was just visiting with a class at one of our institutions this past week, and somebody asked one of the most difficult roles of my job, and they said there are many times where I have to make a decision that 50% of the people are not going to be happy with, and that's just the role that commissioners have to play. But having that global view and the perspective of not just the conference, but the division as a whole, and my background of the NCAA days and so forth, obviously makes those conversations and decisions a little easier. But having the support of my presidents, having the support of our ADs really makes a significant difference. As I said, we have such great presidents and ADs and SWAs as well. It makes it a lot easier to make those decisions and have to make those calls in one direction, rather that some of the folks are certainly not going to be very happy with.
You mentioned your background a little bit. How did you get to the CCIW in your march, as it were?
Well, I was a Division III student athlete many years ago. I'm a proud alum of Whittier College, fighting poet. and I played baseball there for the Poets, and actually went worked in professional sports for a couple of years. And then I worked for the NCAA for almost 5 years. I really started out doing professional sports liaison type of work, but I really found my home back in Division III and started working with committees, the governance structure, a lot of the different pieces that I have, and it certainly made that a transition very easy. I really enjoyed my time at the NCAA a great deal. Some great folks that I work with, and it's challenging work, and the public perception is not always the best, but I had the opportunity to work on so many different issues. It really transitioned really easy to the conference office and dealing with the same type of issues in just a little bit smaller scale. So I really was a national office staffer and then transitioning into the CCIW, where I've been since 2002.
And we should point out that I think that background that you had with the NCAA is why you've still been so involved, instrumental, whatever you want to say, when it comes to a convention or when it comes to legislation. Even if you're not involved as being a writer slash endorser of a piece of legislation, I've always found that you're still heavily involved in legislation, either helping people understand it or trying to figure out the best way for Division III. Is that a fair way of saying that?
For sure, Dave. Absolutely. Maybe just be you can't teach an old dog new tricks, the type of thing that you just can't get out that legislation, having written a lot of that legislation for a long period of time. I enjoy that immensely. It really is something that I'm passionate about, and I've worked really hard over the years with the support of my conference to be involved in those discussions. We have not always been, at least in the last several years, at the front of some of the legislative pieces that we've had, but certainly been integral in those conversations. And I've taken an active role in that and dealing with those types with fellow commissioners, other administrators. I certainly have continued to be involved in that. And I think some of that certainly has to do with the CCIW and what we mean and what we believe in and how successful we've been across all of our sports.
Sure. I'm talking to Chris Martin here, Commissioner of the CCIW. That's my segue to go to. We are into an NCAA convention week. You will be headed to sunny and hopefully nice Orlando, Florida here coming up this week. I said at the beginning of the show, there's not a lot of basketball legislation really on the table. There's some football stuff. There's obviously a big topic we'll talk about in a moment for the whole NCAA. But there's some interesting topics. What that's kind of universal or all division-wide. Any of the topics up for legislation this year catch your interest, and why for Division III?
It's a pretty light legislative document, Dave, as you just kind of mentioned. I find the social media piece an interesting one, some deregulation and moving closer to what Division I and Division II do. And I think that's a positive thing. Our student athletes have been supportive of that, and we've had some good discussions with our conference staff about that. And we just had some discussions with an NCAA national office staff in December that came and presented to about 65 of our coaches and administrators. And a good portion of that was focusing on what the new legislation will mean for the social media type of stuff. It's moving so fast that we all try to catch up to speed and stay ahead of it. So it's been something that's taken some education for us. But obviously, as you mentioned, the football proposal will be, it's significant, at least in terms of change, and move away from sort of an antiquated model that we have now. And then obviously the Board of Governors proposal would probably be the biggest one, but pretty light legislative docket. I'm just hoping that Orlando's sunnier and warmer than it is here in Chicago tonight.
Well, that might be too easy. Though stranger things have happened in the history of Florida.
That's true.
I think Miami saw snow in 1972 on this date or something I read weird. The Board of Governors one, I don't want to get too in the weeds on things, but it's an interesting idea, adding 5 Board of Governor members that are not NCAA members. And we should again remind everybody that every board, every committee, everything is made up of NCAA members. The NCAA is actually its membership, not how everyone likes to perceive it, but that's another rabbit hole you and I could dive into. But the Board of Governors adding those 5 members, one, I assume you're in favor of it, because I haven't run into anybody who isn't, because it's outside points of view, perspectives being put on that board. But are you also interested in having any of them have at least some kind of Division III representation?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, Dave. We are supportive of that proposal. I think we all recognize the significant step it will take forward for the association as a whole. But there is strong concern and strong interest and preference in having somebody, one of those 5 or 2 of those 5, at least having some Division III background, some Division III knowledge, some Division III experience. It's something our Commissioners Association of Division III has been quite vocal about, and we're hopeful that'll play out as we go forward. ultimately, the votes are the votes at the Division I level, at the Board of Governors piece, but somebody who has some understanding about Division III and what we believe in, what we espouse every day, and how we operate our student athletes and everything. That's certainly a huge piece of the puzzle and something that we've been quite vocal about all the way up until, obviously, we continue to be vocal about that, I'm sure, on Thursday when we actually vote on the proposal itself.
You kind of hinted it quickly. You don't want to dive in the hole too deep, but first off, there's no true vote on whether you can force D3 members on there, and it's not like D3 is going to vote against it without that guarantee, I'm assuming.
No, and it's interesting, Dave. There has been a pocket of membership in the Division III that really has said maybe we should just take a stand and vote against it. Vote against it because we don't have that true Division III connection, or at least a guarantee for a rough word. But you're right. I think that ultimately you're right. There is no guarantee that we'll have anybody. There's no legislative piece of the puzzle. The NCAA staff and the Board of Governors has been quite open about how they're planning on filling those spots. So we're hopeful that our voice will be heard through the governance structure, the Commissioners Association, which I think the governance structure is committed to it as well, really get somebody, or at least one in there that has some Division III knowledge. There's certainly a number of prominent Division III graduates who have an understanding and even in some cases an experience about Division III athletics that would be really beneficial to fill one of those spots. We hope that happens, that's for sure.
The other thing is they're voting on Thursday, and anybody who understands the convention, certainly I do, knows that all things voted on happen on Saturdays. And the last time we had an all NCAA referendum to be voted on, I believe, was women's beach volleyball to be added, and that was done on Saturday. Why is this being voted on Thursday?
Well, and that's a great question. That's probably one for the better for the NCAA staff specifically to answer. But this session is part of the whole association with President Emmert's speech and talk about the state of college athletics and sports. And then we're going to have a vote. All three divisions will be in there voting together. We'll all be there at the same time, and we'll all have our nice little voting units and voting on this particular proposal at the time. It does take an association-wide approval.
Right.
So rather than voting independently like traditionally on Saturday in the business session or Division II business session, we're all voting in that big room all together on Thursday. It harkens back to when I was at the NCAA days, back in the staff when people all voted in one room and they actually counted votes by hand, which you can imagine is a nightmare. But it will be, it's the sort of the normal parliamentary procedure when you're talking about association-wide vote, and certainly as an issue as important as this is for the association, we're all going to be in that room voting together.
I think Mark just wants more people in there to listen to him. I think Mark just wants to hear more people or see more people in the audience to hear him talk.
You may be right about that. That's probably true. It would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. Anyway, let's dive back into the CCIW men's and women's races before we let you go. We'll start on the women's side of things, if you don't mind. I'd love your take on things. Wheaton, Illinois Wesleyan have been the kind of the juggernauts up top, but that's not the whole story.
No, it's an interesting year, Dave. And let me preface my comments that now that we have an expanded conference tournament, it really has changed the landscape for us from going to 4 teams to 6 teams this year. And I think we have, we certainly have always had depth and some symmetry in terms of how our conference is playing out this year. On the women's side, Wesleyan and Wheaton both have 1 loss, and Carthage is just a step below them with 2. And then we've got a little bit of gap to teams with 4 losses, but it certainly will be a dogfight to get those 5 and 6 spots now that they're there. I mean, it's an opportunity for a team to maybe get hot at the right time and get a chance to play in the conference tournament for the first time. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. I think Wesleyan and Wheaton are clearly at the top, and Carthage is right there. And then the other teams are bunched together, and I think that's going to be the fun part to watch on the women's side of things as we move toward an expanded conference tournament.
Yeah, well, certainly expanded race is something I want to ask you about in a moment, but from the CCIW, you mentioned the teams there. Obviously, Illinois Wheaton tied, but Illinois Wesleyan and Wheaton tied. Carthage is nipping at their heels. Augustana is in the mix too.
Yes, absolutely. They just beat Wheaton in last week, so that was a huge win for Coach Beinborn out at Augustana, and he's done a great job with that program, and it moved upward, and that was a big win for them. So I think that hopefully for them, I know he's hoping that it'll continue to sort of raise their profile and get closer to Carthage and the teams ahead of them.
Absolutely. Of course, on the men's side, everyone's had their eye on Augustana. They're 9-0 in conference play, though. Someone expects somebody to knock them off because nobody goes undefeated in the CCIW, sir.
That's the rally cry every year, isn't it, Dave? And I tell you, I haven't seen Augie a couple of times, including this past Wednesday at Wheaton against Aston Francis. I mean, they are so talented. And having a full-strength Pearson Wofford this year really makes a significant difference to Gray's team. And they've been so good the last several years. And you think, gosh, is this the year that somebody could actually go undefeated in the conference? I'm not really sure that's Gray's point of emphasis at this point.
No.
I think he's hoping for 5 straight conference titles more than anything else, which has never happened in the history of our conference. So I think he's focusing on that. But boy, they're good. I mean, they're just so phenomenal, so talented, so well coached, so disciplined. They play so hard, and everybody's really gunning for them.
Yeah, but then suddenly North Central now is 2 games out. Wheaton is 3 games out. Illinois Wesleyan has plummeted. And Elmhurst is now in the conversation. But Illinois Wesleyan may be saved by the 6 teams in the tournament scenario here.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Absolutely, Dave. I mean, North Central is an interesting piece because they lost really 2 significant players to season-ending injuries. And Coach Reardon and his team, I mean, I'm not really sure how they're able to do it, but they continue to win some great games and holding on and only have 2 losses. Obviously, with Wheaton and Coach Schauer and Austin Francis right there, he's such a great, phenomenal player. And Wesleyan's an interesting one because I think you're exactly right. They probably will be saved by the 16 tournament this year. They just haven't been able to close out some of those games. They've held some leads for a good portion, just haven't been able to slam the door shut on some of those teams. It's unusual to see them at 4 and 5. Every once in a while, I have to rub my eyes just to see that, but they've been so good for so long. So it'll be interesting to see how the second half goes for them.
Before we let you go, 17 years, as you mentioned, and you will be hanging it up, as it were, after this. Already a decision on who's going to be taken over for you. But just because I'm curious, no easy way to ask it, why now, and what's your future?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave, and it's one that I've had a lot of practice answering recently, which I think is a compliment more so than anything else. But it's been a great deal of fun. I've had a few health issues the past couple of years and really need to spend more time focusing on those as I go forward. The next step for me, I'm not quite sure what it is yet. I've got some opportunities, some balls in the air. I'm trying to figure out really what I want to do and sort of figure out and pivot what's next and where I go. It's been so much fun to wave the CCIW flag for 17 years. And I'm excited about Maureen Hardy taking over and leading things when I step down this summer. So the short answer to the question is there's still a few balls in the air trying to figure out which one I'm going to go with at this point. But I think it's just time for me to focus on some other things outside the CCIW. And this is as good a time as any to be able to do it.
We've done an amazing job, sir. I thank you for your time coming on the show. I've always enjoyed chatting with you. In the past, off air, mostly people don't realize, and getting to the bottom of things, even at the convention. So I appreciate you taking the time tonight to join us. We always have a tradition on this show. We always leave the final word to the guest. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, Dave, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to be on, and I've always appreciated what you and all the D3 sports staff have done for everything in terms of our association, our sports, our programs, our student athletes, our coaches. You are the unsung heroes of what we do in Division III. So I can't thank you enough. So when you asked me to be on, it's like, absolutely, that would be an honor for me to be on. So I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you a little bit here, more formally rather than all the other conversations we've had sort of off air, so to speak. So I appreciate all that you and Pat Coleman and everybody at D3 Sports do for us.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, most of our conversations are email, text, or every once in a while a phone call. We don't take the formality, and it's too bad we waited this long, but at least we got you on before you left.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, sir. Safe travels to Orlando. We'll look forward to hearing an update, probably off air, on how it all went, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great, Dave. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Chris Martin joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Skype Hoopsville hotline. We appreciate him taking the time. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll jump into Maine. Pre-recorded interview, but we'll talk to the senior guard helping lead Bowdoin to the #1 ranking. Abby Kelly joins us. You're listening to Hoopsville. By the way, still ahead, Ryan Scott will join us as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Directors Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name
It's Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Sunday evening. If you are in New York and New England, I hope you're enjoying the show, maybe in front of a nice fire. Maybe with a good cup of something to keep you warm. It has been, as we've mentioned on the show, not what we expected down here, but delays and cancellations nonetheless. So I am living vicariously through anybody who is up in the Greatlands who are taking on the wonderful winter weather. Not that I don't love the rest of you around the country. The Ohio Valley got a good dose of snow as well, but you know how it is. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Or join us on Facebook where we're simulcasting the show, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Of course, we're simulcasting on Periscope via Twitter as well. Well, unless something's happened in the show that I don't know about. This is a pre-recorded segment, if you haven't figured out from the graphics. Bowdoin women's team is certainly one of the teams everyone is talking about this season. They are still undefeated at 17-0, 4-0 in NESCAC play. They took over the number 1 vote from Amherst when Amherst lost to Eastern Connecticut. Of course, Bowdoin and Amherst and Tufts have had some interesting and incredible battles in the NESCAC over the last few years, and 3 of the best teams in the country. Bowdoin keeps clicking along, even though Thomas More has nearly taken the number 1 ranking from them. They defeated Colby this weekend, 72-59. They will have, though, Amherst coming up next weekend, Hamilton and Amherst, and of course at home, which may be an advantage to the Polar Bears. To get a sense of how good is Bowdoin, or what makes Bowdoin click, may be the best way to describe it. Instead this time of talking to Adrian Scheibels, we figured we'd talk to one of the players. And joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline is a senior from the program. It's Abby Kelly. Abby, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, congratulations on what the season has been so far at 17-0. Meeting expectations for what the squad set out when the season began?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the nice words. Yeah, it's been really great so far. I mean, obviously we're only hopefully halfway there. And getting into conference play has been a lot different than non-conference play at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, we set high expectations for ourselves every day in practice, and at the beginning of the season, this is where we wanted to be, and we just got to keep grinding and keep going, and we're on the right track.
Somewhat easy so far, and I don't mean that in a blasé kind of point, but when you look through results, there's only a handful of results that you can literally take note of and go, geez, that was a good game, or that was close. You had one early with Mass Dartmouth. That was certainly a thriller in the fourth quarter, finally pulling that one off. And then, of course, Trinity Connecticut was somewhat close. Otherwise, really, you guys haven't had a lot, or Tufts, we should point out Tufts, though that ended up not as close as I think many people thought. You guys haven't had a lot of close contests. Is that something that it makes it a challenge to stay focused to some degree, or is that the sign of focus?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess with us, I think going into practice, I mean, looking at the scores, yeah, I think that it's easy to say, oh, Bowdoin's had a pretty easy schedule. They're blowing teams out. It's not, sometimes we've even heard like, oh, well, it's not as fun to watch because you guys are blowing everyone out,
Yeah.
But, for us, I mean, us competing in practice every day is such a challenge. And I think that what has made it seem like these games are easy. You know what I mean? So us, the competition in practice, competition every day on off days, going in and working out together and stuff like that, the work that we put into practice and the focus in practice, bringing that every day. We're really focused on getting 1% better every day. And we bring that to practices. We bring that to games. We bring that everywhere mentally. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I guess we haven't had many close games yet. I mean, and going on into conference play, has, like I said, has been a lot different, and it's going to be challenging along the way. I think bringing that into these games maybe has made us ready, has made us, has allowed us to have these not very close games.
Well, and this weekend you kind of have that shock a little bit because Hamilton's coming in at 9-5, though they're 0-3 in the conference, and then you've got by the way, Amherst in the second game there. So certainly things are ramped up a little bit this weekend.
Right. Yeah. Every year conference play is just great. Like, I think NESCAC play is the best D3 play in the country. Just my opinion, playing these other teams like in our conference, we're lucky that we get to play such good competition throughout the year, every year, and everyone brings their A game to every conference game. So I think that this weekend coming up, the weekend against Trinity, the games that we've played already, Colby, and all the teams coming up, I think that it's going to be a challenge every day, and we have to lock in on that every practice, every day before they come.
Sure. Does the number one? Well, let's get to that in a minute. Let me ask one more conference question, and that's the travel. Obviously, Hamilton is coming to you guys, so the longest trip is not on your schedule. The second longest trip, though, is because the following weekend you head off to Williams and then play Middlebury, and I'm figuring Williams is probably about 6 hours from you guys, and I don't even guess on how far Middlebury is because there's no straight shot unless you take the straight shot.
Exactly.
How do you and it's relative. For you guys, it's a long trip. For someone in Texas, they're laughing at this question, but from your vantage point, what is that trip, those long trips like in conference action, and is it a relief that you only get them once every 2 years, really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously travel for anyone is tough, and especially going to on these long bus rides to, Hamilton and Middlebury. So we went to Hamilton last year, and it's kind of fun for us to be together, like going on a trip away. But the road tough piece is just the biggest aspect of it. I think that having fresh legs, not just sitting on the bus, sitting on the bus. It's kind of like everybody has to be road tough. It's a disadvantage for anyone to be traveling and going far places and, sitting on the bus for a long time. But being road tough is kind of what we lock in on when we're going to these far places. But it's always fun to play on the road and kind of see what we're made of when we're outside of our gym.
Sure. So. Hamilton's a bit of a home game for you.
A little bit.
Maybe a little bit of a family reunion. It's about 3.5 hours from where you are from, correct?
Yeah. It's only about 3.5 hours. Actually, Middlebury is only 2.5.
Oh, so Middlebury's perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's really great. So I get to see more of my family. They'll have a big section when we go down there, which is really awesome. And my sister went to Middlebury, so
okay.
So we've made that trip a lot.
Yeah, Middlebury College just canceled all your tickets. They don't want they're worried about.
They don't want any of us.
No, they don't want any of you. We'll talk a little bit about your hometown in a minute. Let's go back to this number one question I had looming. What's it like to be, quote unquote, the number one team in the country, and does that come with pressure from a student's point of view, or do you guys just kind of wash it away?
Well, it's just been such an it's been so nice to have people compliment us like that, giving us votes, giving us a lot of votes. I mean, number one, like hearing that, it's like, wow, that's incredible. Like really proud of our team, proud of ourselves, proud of us for doing that. But we try not to let it get to us. We don't, it's right now for us in our minds, like this may sound bad, but it's just a number in our head.
Sure.
We need to put in that work every day. We've put in work to be here, and it's going to be, now we have a target on our backs.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that. We've talked about not letting it get to our heads, being proud, but not letting it get to us and not letting us get complacent. And coach makes a point of that every day, and not getting 1% better, and not letting that get to our heads. And, it's even tougher now. Like I said, the target's on our backs. Everyone's bringing their A game to us when they play us. And I think that makes it a lot more challenging. It really does. Everyone wants to knock us off, and we can't focus on that. We need to focus on us and ourselves, and not necessarily our competition, but the competition within our team and ourselves, and getting better and competing in practice and competing every day, pushing each other, because, all these teams are out to get us now. As we are hopefully out to get everyone else and stay on top.
You say you guys don't let it get to you, but I'm curious, does that mean it is a topic of conversation in the locker room?
I think when the polls came out, when we had first found out, people were coming up to us, in around campus and stuff, saying like, wow, that's awesome. We saw it on Twitter, coach was like, this is an awesome accomplishment. Thank you for all the votes, kind words. But we haven't, and people will bring it up to us outside of, like I said, outside the locker room, outside of the gym, saying that, but it's not something that we discuss. It's not really proud of you guys. I mean, that was said when it first happened.
Sure.
Really proud of us. We need to keep working. But since then, it hasn't been a topic. The only time really it's brought up is we have a target on our backs. People want to beat us, and we need to work. So, it's not really a topic of conversation unless other people bring it up to us, and we're saying thank you. I appreciate it, but we got to keep working.
Do you guys, let's jump ahead now to Amherst coming up. What's it like to play the Mammoths? I've seen them in person. I know what GP Gromacki's types of teams are like. They're different. And actually, I guess maybe from Tufts, you're seeing the same thing now too. What's it like to play either of those teams that are usually in, you didn't get this in the Tufts result this year, but this lockdown defense, we're going to slug it out. We don't really care if we score.
Right. I mean, two great teams, obviously two incredible teams that compete with us every year. We compete with them. It's just tough. It's a grind. And, we're lucky to be able to play them in the regular season. They make us better. And, it's always a grind. It's always a tough fought game. And we're working towards it every day. But we try not to focus on, who it is. We have Hamilton coming up on Friday that we really need to lock in on, and then Amherst on Saturday. But, it's tough. I mean, but the competition that we have in practice, we're pushing each other. We're trying to make each other better, 1% better every single day. And it's a grind. But like I said, I think that we're lucky, and we are fortunate to be able to play them in the regular season, and, know what they're about and play really good basketball with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Talk about your team a little bit. You're one of four seniors. There's two from Maine, one from Bangor, one from Presque Isle, which probably explains why you guys played Maine Presque Isle this year. One from New Hampshire and one from New York and yourself. And, but then you got the rest of this very diverse, I mean, as far away as Washington and California type of squad. Tell me a little bit about them and what makes you guys tick.
Yeah. Oh, I could talk forever about my team. I'm really good. They're incredible. All the rest.
I'll sit back, have a drink, and listen. Go ahead.
Okay, great. They're really awesome, and it is people from all over the place. Especially more California this year. There's two freshmen from California, first years, and it's really been incredible. And honestly, when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go, it was the team chemistry that sold me here. And I have not been let down a bit. It's been incredible. And when I came in as a first year, we had one senior, and all the upperclassmen were just so open and welcoming. And I really do think the chemistry off the court has contributed so much to our success. And I think it has. And I think that's about what our program really is about. And they, you know, we've been here all of January. Like we come back like many teams do, you know, the day after Christmas or the day after the holiday. And we've been here. We don't actually start classes until this week. So we've just been hanging out here for the month of January. But, you know, we go to practice and then we all kind of just like do our own thing, hang out. We can, you know, I can hang out with any person on my team individually and I would have a blast. We're close like that. And I think that Coach really focuses on that when recruiting and also focusing on that bond to create that bond in the fall, right when we get here. And it's been really incredible. I could spend all day. I do spend all day with them, really all day, every day. And, you know, they're amazing. We all encourage each other. We all support each other. Like yesterday, such a special moment when the team came out and hugged me. Coach called a timeout. Like that's the kind of stuff that I just like, you know, I want to start tearing up because it's really incredible, the support we have for each other. And, but not just that, it's the competitiveness in practice. It's the pushing each other and holding each other accountable on every play, trying to do that every day. Like I keep saying, to get that 1% better, but, you know, we really do enforce that. And, you know, they really are, everyone deserves all the credit for, like, you know, everyone contributes. Everyone plays an impactful role on this team. And I really do believe that to a great extent.
We'll talk about the hug in a minute. Two thoughts. First, if I was on your campus that long, I'd be tempted to go down to Freeport, just hang out at Ella Bean instead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
I've definitely done that before.
and everything. Ella Bean's probably bigger than your campus. I say that jokingly. Bowdoin's got a good-sized campus.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit of what it's like to play for Coach Scheibels and any assistant coach you've had there, but really Coach Scheibel, what's it like to play for her, and has it lived up? It's a little bit of a loaded question, but has it lived up to the expectations when you got recruited?
I've been really, really fortunate to play for Coach Scheibels. She is an incredible coach. I mean, just obviously you can tell from statistic-wise that she knows what she's doing. But we've gotten a lot closer over the years, and being a captain, it's been really interesting and really cool to see, kind of ride that line between being a player and then kind of behind the scenes too, which has been really cool, I think, for the three of us captains, and really all of the seniors in general. But I've been really fortunate. We've gotten closer, like I said, over the years, and she's incredible. I mean, obviously, like, we trust her and she trusts us, which is both on the court and off the court, just a really, really unique aspect of, I think, having a coach that, you know, contributes that much time to you individually as a person and as a player. But she also is just such an advocate for all of us. You know, she will support us with everything that we do. She'll call us in just to check on us, like, how are we doing? And so the off-the-court aspect is really, like I said, really contributes, I think, to the on-the-court, the trust that we have with her, the relationships that we have with her. And she, you know, she has pushed us in specifically, I mean, I can't really speak for everyone, but for me, she's pushed me in ways that, you know, I didn't even know I could go there. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
I think that, as a person, I think when I look back on my college experience, she has contributed a great amount to how much I've grown. And I really can't thank her enough for that. And I think that's something that not everyone can get. So I've been really, really fortunate to have her push my boundaries, but doing it in such a loving and caring way. It's been really awesome.
Awesome insight. Thank you. Really great to hear that point of view. We don't get to hear that as often as we should. Let's talk a little about you. You mentioned the hug. We should point out 1,000 points yesterday against Colby. Congratulations. I think you needed 19 and walked past that rather easily.
Thank you.
What does the 1,000 points mean to a basketball player, especially in college? What does that signify to you?
Well, yeah, it's such an incredible accomplishment, and I want to start off with it being here at Bowdoin. The fact that I can play I'm one of I can kind of leave a piece of me here in that way is really meaningful to me, and my teammates. You know, the thing that we kind of talk about is the fact, or maybe it's not talked about enough actually, is that so probably every player on my team could be a 1,000-point scorer at a different school. And I fully stand by that. And I think they all were in high school. And this program, I think that shows the selfless acts that people perform and what we give up in order to be one as a team. You know what I'm
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't well said, but everyone is so selfless, and playing time isn't a focus if we're doing what we need to do when we go in and other people are doing their part. And I think that, like I said, I think everyone could be in a 1,000 point score on maybe a different team. And I think that just is really incredible. But for me, I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's really awesome. It hasn't necessarily sunk in yet. I don't know if it's like, if there will be a point where I'm like, oh, wow, I did it, something like that. But in the moment, it was really awesome. It was really awesome. And my team came out to hug me, and my parents had come and made the trip just for one game.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah. And, and my family watching back home, it really does mean a lot. And, it does. It means a lot to my family and my home community supporting me, and my team couldn't have done it without all the players that I've played with, all the players that I'm playing with now, my coaches. It's really awesome. And it really means a lot. It really does.
And now your parents are stranded in the area because they can't get home thanks to the storm. They're going to enjoy Brunswick more than they wanted to.
Yeah, no, they actually went home last night. They actually made it home.
Oh, wow.
The storm, so I'm really happy about that.
They drove back last night? They
did.
Insanity.
We're
not getting into this. That's just... Did they go via Canada, or do they drop down and head over? Curious.
They dropped and head over.
Okay.
Through New Hampshire, through Vermont. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a ways. I know.
They don't even do this. They don't even take the interstate way. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's gonna take us in a different direction. We got to stop now. Okay. Congratulations on the 1,000 points. What is your major, by the way?
So I'm a history.
Well, we lost you a little bit there. You there?
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah. So what you just about to tell us is almost like it's a deep secret. We lost you.
Oh, it is. It is. Close your ears.
Yeah.
I'm a history education coordinate major.
Okay, so history education coordinate major.
Yes.
What is... I'm playing a little dumb because I know the answer to this, but to the viewers at home, what does that mean?
So, So with Bowdoin, you can't major. There's no major in education, specifically education. So what you can do is either minor in it, or you could get a coordinate major. You could do a coordinate major, which means that you would pair it up with another major. So I'm doing, like I said, history and education, but some people do soc, physics, bio, biology. So it's really cool. They also have this part where you can stay another year and you can get your teaching certification for free.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, which is really, really awesome. So if people want to take advantage of that, it's really incredible.
Am I guessing that's what you might be doing?
No, unfortunately not. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
But it is, but it's really, really great for people that really want to get a degree and teach, somewhere in public school.
What are you going to do now that you've approached your final semester? I'm sorry if I didn't tell you yet. You're approaching your final semester.
A lot of harsh words here. I am not sure yet. I'm still a little bit undecided about what I want to do. I've gotten my foot in the door a little bit with a few different things, but I'm leaning right now towards maybe working at a boarding school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I want to teach, but maybe teach, maybe work in athletics or work in admissions or something like that, and get involved with coaching a little bit, maybe. And maybe being like a dorm parent. I'm not really sure. That's one road that I think I might want to go down. Because I actually went to a boarding school my junior and senior year.
Oh.
I transferred.
Where'd you go? Oh, Kimball Union?
Yeah, Kimball Union.
Okay.
Yeah, so I transferred there, and I repeated my junior year.
Okay,
so
very
I
common.
was there my junior and senior year, and it made a huge impact on my life. One of the best decisions I've ever made, and the mentors that I had there, the teachers I had, and the support that I had there was incredible, and it stayed with me. And I think that's probably what's pushing me to kind of do that, because the people that did that for me, I'm still really close with. Like, my basketball coach has come to a couple games, and I was really close with her. She's my advisor, and a couple other teachers that really impacted me. And I'm like, if I could do that for kids and
Yeah.
have the same impact that they had on me, I would be so satisfied.
That explains then how you ended up at Bowdoin, because you look at Bombay, New York, which is located, for anybody who's not looking at a map, up near Canton on the northern side of New York State, and anybody who's listening to the show knows where Canton's located. I'm thinking to myself, how in the world did anybody find her, or how did she find Bowdoin?
I had no idea.
Yeah, so I can get it through the prep school. I get that totally, as a prep school guy myself. I get that. But my question is, tell us a little bit about your hometown, because that's up in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, definitely nowhere. So I live right in upstate New York on the Canadian border on a small Indian reservation.
You're on an Indian reservation.
Yeah, well, right off of it, but grew up there. Went to school right off with a bunch of kids from there. My parents lived there, grew up there. Yeah. So my house is like right off of the reservation. But once you get out, it's like, I could walk there. My backyard ends there.
Since you're so close to it, does that mean you have some Native American in you?
Yeah, I'm half Native American.
Fascinating.
Yeah. My dad grew up on the reservation, and he's Native American. He's full Native American.
That is cool. I mean, growing up near one in Maine myself, we could go off on another tangent talking with Abby here, but folks are like, come on, you've already talked for 20 minutes. Really interesting. Again, we could talk to you all day, but we got to get going. But really appreciate it, especially considering there's a raging storm, a winter storm up there in your neck of the woods. Of course, you're close to the shore a little bit, so you guys may not get in the fun part of it, but appreciate you nonetheless taking the time to join us. Good luck the rest of the season. We're enjoying watching Bowdoin. We're enjoying seeing you guys succeed. As we have a tradition on here, and we're throwing maybe a curveball at you, we always have the guests say the final word, or have the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Oh my gosh! Wow, you really put me on the spot.
See, I tried to slow walk that one, but I didn't walk it slow enough.
No, really, just thank you. Thank you for having me. I mean, Bowdoin's been incredible, and I mean, for me and everyone that goes here, all the athletes and the basketball team, it's just been really amazing. And I hope you watch us the rest of the way, and I hope we continue to do well.
Well, you've certainly impressed. We appreciate the time you took to join us, and good luck the rest of your year, and we'll look forward to talking about the Polar Bears down the road.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Abby Kelly joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Couple of notes. First off, first time they were voted #1 as a program since the current Navy coach was running things at Bowdoin. That's significant for the Polar Bears. Second of all, she said boarding school. All of you outside of New England, or maybe greater New England, boarding school is not a bad thing. I have to tell my wife this all the time. Boarding school just means you went to a high school that is has boarding. It's not the troublemaker school everybody thinks it is. It's basically a prep school where you stay and you don't go home every single night. I went to one at Salisbury School in Connecticut. It's as she said, it was transformative in my life as well, so I can totally relate to that. Thirdly, really interesting to see how the NESCAC has changed. And talking with her, you can kind of grasp that. It used to be Amherst, then Tufts made its presence known. Now Bowdoin has gotten into the mix. Well, they're in the mix. They're not getting into it. That NESCAC race is certainly fascinating to watch. With that, we'll take a break. When we come back, there's plenty more Hoopsville ahead, so tune in. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
I'm Cole Vivian, head women's basketball coach at Merida College and a member of the Women's Basketball Coach Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
The answer to my question earlier is it's Marietta's coach who just did that segment for the WBCA. We thank him for that. Welcome back as we wrap up this extended version of Hoopsville here on Sunday evening. I am your host, Dave McHugh. If you got questions for us in this finale, Ryan doesn't realize this, but there is one quick question coming up that Bob Quillman did something about in the chat board. Someone wants us to ask about it. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're simulcasting the show as we are on YouTube as well. A couple quick notes. We mentioned we would go through the women's top 25. Again, something we're going to get used to. Thomas More, idle. They will be idle for several more weeks before the next set of games. Not a ton of losses. We mentioned Oshkosh losing, but then they got past La Crosse 60-48 this weekend. Both Oshkoshes beating both La Crosses in an interesting WIAC battle this weekend. Chicago defeated Brandeis, but then lost to NYU 66-62. You do wonder how much maybe the travel and the weather that they had to deal with played a role there. Wheaton lost to Augustana, but then got back against North Park. We talked to CCIW commish Chris Martin about that Augustana win earlier in the show. La Crosse, we mentioned, lost. Whitman lost to Puget Sound. That was a surprise. They beat Pacific Lutheran 91-50, but then lost to Puget Sound 75-67. So you'll figure that the 24th ranked Blues will fall out of the top 25, but they are still a very good team and now I believe co-leaders on top of the Northwest Conference. Or actually, they're now a game behind George Fox. Oglethorpe lost to Rhodes earlier this week. Hopkins lost to Gettysburg. No surprise there, but it was a close game, 56-49. I think that says a lot for Hopkins in women's basketball. Baldwin-Wallace in the receiving votes category lost to Marietta, and Guilford lost to Lynchburg. That rounds out the women. Again, a little bit of a lighter week. One we've been used to most years, though this year it's been a little bit more interesting. Wins-wise, not a ton of games jumped out at me. Illinois Wesleyan had a good week in women's basketball. George Fox had a good week. Geneseo played only one game and won. Gettysburg got past both Muhlenberg and Hopkins. They had to come from behind to beat Muhlenberg. And DeSales dispatched Manhattanville 84-56. They were supposed to play Misericordia this weekend. That game got moved because of the weather. By the way, quick other note, Brandeis got past Chicago in men's basketball. Hats off to Brandeis. You might remember last week on the top 25 double take with Ryan Scott, I had mentioned Chicago maybe as a dark horse, but I wasn't exactly ready to vote on them until they got past this week. Well, Brandeis knocked them out, and and they barely got past NYU, though apparently some interesting calls at the end. But that's why I sometimes wait just a half beat after a big week. But speaking of the top 25 double take, we go to the Blue Frame Technologies Skype hotline, which hasn't been branded on this graphic for some reason, but we do so anyway. And Ryan Scott joins us on the show. Sir, thank you for stepping away from the football game. I appreciate it.
No problem, Dave. Glad to do it. This is actually the first football game I've watched all year. So.
Oh, there you go. All right, there. We didn't really steal you for much. We're going to do a tight segment just because we're so late on the show. But first and foremost, anything that jumped out at you this week?
Other than you just mentioned it before we came on, the Stevens Point losing twice was a little bit of a surprise. I thought it might be a little closer to Oshkosh than it was. And then Platteville, that's a good team, but didn't expect that loss.
Yeah, agreed. That we mentioned that certainly also at the beginning, and it's the WIAC. It's just WIAC crazy. We've gotten used to that just as much as anything else, have we not?
Yeah, it's a very good league. I think they may actually be a little deeper this year than in the past.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's very likely. Absolutely, good point. All right, so we usually do. We were going to maybe do some buy and sell this week, but unable to get that done. So we're going to just do some our usual grouping of dubious, dark horse, and debatable teams. And I always let you start with that. And so. Obviously, we both vote for the top 25. We'll talk about some of your overarching thoughts on the top 25, but you can start with whichever one of those three you'd like to start with.
Let's go with the dark horse, Dave.
Ooh. Dark horse, we should remind our listeners, is somebody who's not receiving votes or very, very, very little votes that we think maybe should be a little higher in everybody's minds.
Certainly, somebody we just want to throw out on the radar, and the name I'm going to bring up is Augsburg up in Minnesota. They have 4 losses on the year, but it's an overtime loss at Bethel, which they have since won on the return, and then they lost at Loris. They lost to St. John's in a triple overtime against St. Thomas. So it's hard. They don't get a lot of non-conference games there. They don't have really a signature win other than teams in their own conference, so it's hard to know exactly, but they have Booker Copeland is he might be the best player in the conference, and certainly an All-American candidate, really strong individual talent, and they've been winning.
That's an interesting choice. Did I mention Rowan last week?
We both did.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to get away with that cheat game. The answer is I can't get away with that cheat game. My dark horse, then, in that case, since I can't talk about them, and unfortunately, some of my other ones got way too many votes. I'm gonna go with Oswego, and this wasn't one that I mentioned a lot in the beginning of the year, and actually I kind of dismissed them a little bit because I just felt like they were going to go through what they were usually do and flash in the pan. But they're 13-2, defeated Plattsburgh 86-82 in their last game. I think they had a game this weekend that got postponed due to the weather. On top of that. Their only losses were back-to-back games on the 29th and 30th to Emory and Denison. Yeah, the Denison one, I'll admit, is a head-scratcher a little bit there. Sure. Maybe they should have beaten Emory as well, but they're playing well. Yes, this gets into that conversation we've had in the past about Plattsburgh. We had last week about whether the conference is strong enough to really give us a gauge there. But at the same time, they've risen to the top of the conference. They're playing well, knocked off a top 25 team. Maybe we need to have them on our radar. So Oswego is my dark horse. My dark horse.
Yeah, that was one of the teams I considered as well. I don't know what to make of them yet. I'm not voting for them yet, obviously, but they're certainly a team to watch right now.
Yeah, I got to debate whether I'm voting for them as well. There's going to be some holes on my ballot, but we'll see where that takes us. I mean, we can go through the list and try and find some others. Don't get me wrong, but they kind of jumped out at me. So. With just 2 losses, they jumped out, and really they probably want that week back from Atlanta anyway. Otherwise, they might be undefeated and they wouldn't be a dark horse, which is probably what makes them a perfect dark horse pick. So where do you want to go next, sir?
All right, so we got to go to the dubious. I think there was an obvious one that I'm going to avoid this week, and I'll let you maybe see if you can guess who that will be going forward. But Put it on the bulletin board, John Krikorian. I'm going to say Christopher Newport is my dubious this week.
Ooh.
Ooh. I think they're good. I've got them at 26, so they're just off my ballot this week. But I went back and looked at that schedule. Out of their 17 games, only 7 of those teams even have a winning record. And 2 of those are Mount St. Mary's and Huntington, who barely have winning records and aren't really that great at teams. Christopher Newport has played 3 that you would say kind of top-level competition games, and they've lost 2 of them. I think it's a good team. They've got some talent there. They're not as good as they have been the last few years, and I feel like the voters might be working a little bit on reputation, and they might be, 5 to 10 slots ahead of where they should be.
Okay, that's an interesting choice. I'm not sure where you were going. In my opinion, there's 2 easy grab the fruit ones this week. The apple picking is real easy for 2. I feel like I can't go with, well, I wanted to say I can't go with both, or I can't go with both. I got to go with one of them, I think. Though, let me just throw this out there right now. Salisbury's definitely dubious. And I think Plattsburgh, we brought them up last week. I think they've proven they're dubious. I'm going with Stevens Point. I know Stevens Point is maybe a little too easy here because they lost games to La Crosse and Platteville, though neither of them ranked. I know that the WIAC is tough. We've been saying that, preaching that for a while. I'm not surprised that Stevens Point loses games, but they're now 11-5, sitting in the top 10, and granted, that will change with a close loss to La Crosse and a close loss to Platteville, but that's teams that when Semling's units or those are games, I should say, that when Semling's units are really good, they're the ones who win. They're the ones who get the defensive stop. They're the ones who get the job done and come out with victories in those kinds of games. The fact that they lost 2 this week actually kind of scares me a little bit, and I'm wondering if maybe, myself included, because I have them, I had them 8 this week. Maybe we put a little too much stock in the pointers on smoke and mirrors. I don't know. It's easy because they lost 2, and I realize that, and I could be misreading this, but something about it makes me wonder if maybe we missed something.
Yeah, I mean, I dropped them 10 spots this week.
Wow. That's probably what I'll do.
Probably not as far down as maybe I think they should go. If you go back and look at the actual resume now, it looked a lot better before, and they had that overtime loss at Augustana early in the year where they looked great. But if you look now, they're a 5-loss team whose best win is Illinois Wesleyan.
And that doesn't look great now.
Right. And we were judging and giving Illinois Wesleyan the benefit of the doubt because they played so well against Stevens Point.
Yeah.
And so at some point, maybe they're pushing up against each other. It's a talented team with Stevens Point, but it's not a ton of depth. The post play is still a little bit suspect. They're a good team. They're a really good team. I'm still voting for them in the top 25. But yeah, I think you're right that maybe it's time to be a little skeptical.
Yeah, and listen, we've seen a team with not great post play because of height, with a really good defense, go and win a national championship. But I saw them win these games, not lose these games that year, and I think that's where I'm sitting. So yeah, that's my dubious pick.
Absolutely.
Which leaves us with, I'm assuming I didn't pick the one you thought you were teasing about.
No, mine's still out there.
I have a feeling
weeks to go.
I think I know who it is, but we'll leave it. Curious. Okay, so now we go to debatable. Who's your debatable?
Well, this is usually the one where we talk back and forth.
Yeah. Who is the debatable?
Yeah. I think we decided after the win over Williams this week that Middlebury is a perfect debatable candidate.
Yeah.
14-5 right now. They don't actually have great wins on the schedule. You're looking at something
not
like
anymore.
Skidmore. The Williams one, obviously, but before that, I mean, Skidmore is probably the best win before that. Maybe Bates. They've lost to good teams. Keene, Plattsburgh, Swarthmore, Wesleyan, and I got to see them in person when they were down here at Swarthmore, and it's a solid team. They're relying on freshmen and sophomores, especially for the depth, which is where, that's the debatable part of it, right? We don't know what team's going to show up on any given night.
Right.
I think they got a lot of talent, but maybe it's a wait till next year kind of situation.
Yeah, they're killing me because everything tells me they're a good team, but you're right. They've got losses to Wesleyan and Tufts, Swarthmore, Plattsburgh, Keene. 3 of those are in the conversation, top 25. You could argue all 5 have been in the conversation. Well, they have been the last couple of years in top 25. That's not bad, but then you start looking anywhere else for a result. And I know they probably expected more out of Endicott. They probably expected more out of Skidmore this year. But I can't find anything. And so I sit here torn. And they went and smoked Albertus Magnus, but that doesn't mean what it used to mean. I'm torn because I feel like he's got a good team. The win over Williams kind of tells us that, and it was at Williams by 14. But then I go look at the rest of the resume going, yeah, but.
So here's the one little X factor we have to watch going forward. They've had Griffin Cornicker there. He's been playing point guard this year as a sophomore.
Right.
He's really good. He's really talented.
We should point out son of Rob Cornicker, who used to be head coach at
St. John.
St. John. Right. Thank you.
But they have this kid, Max Bosco, off the bench who's been lighting it up the last 2 weeks. So the last 2 games against Albertus Magnus away on the road and at Williams that they really beat them up good, they moved Bosco into the starting lineup and got Cornicker coming off the bench. That changes a lot for that team because you're moving your point guard off the floor, which changes his role. It changes everybody else's role on the floor, and they've got 2 wins out of it. So we got to see going forward if this was just a kid on a hot streak that they're taking advantage of, or whether this is really a good strategic move that's going to help them moving forward.
Well, right. Starting unit now has a different distributor. The secondary unit, or at least some of the starter secondary grouping, now has a different point guard themselves. It changes a little bit of the dynamic. And arguably, you also bring in you're proving you're bringing in a really good player now in Cornicker secondary. I mean, there's a lot of things. Who knows all the reasonings? But I'm literally debating in my head. I can argue that they're good. I can argue that they don't deserve to be in the top 25. I removed them. It was 2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah, 2 weeks ago I pulled them from my list. But it doesn't mean they're off my radar.
Sure.
Because a win like Williams is going to put me right back into that throwing things at the wall stage. Trying to figure out who they are. So that's good, debatable. I agreed. I thought it was a good one. Any other top 25 thoughts or things you think we might see tomorrow?
I don't know. We've got the it's tomorrow is the St. John St. Thomas matchup, right?
Correct. St. John St. Thomas plays tomorrow. It won't affect the polls because our data is already in for the voting, and St. John's is coming off of a really weird.
Same time, so.
Yeah. St. John's is coming off of a really strange loss to Carrollton.
Yeah, you're going to get those here and there.
Yeah, Carrollton?
Did you look at the box score for that? I want to pull it up again.
I know it was wacky.
It was a real strange. So Stokeman had 0 for 10 from three-point land.
Right.
And then Lucas Walford had foul trouble, only ended up playing 19 minutes.
Carrollton had lost 2 in a row coming in. Has lost 6 of 16.
Yeah.
Or won 6 of 16. They've lost 10 this season.
They shot 19% from 3 and beat, a top 10 team, which is just strange. Yeah. But I don't think that's indicative of anything going forward.
No, just makes me scratch my head more than anything. And by the way, St. John's had a chance down the end to pull it off anyway. To hit some shots that they could have won it. So, but that'll just add fuel to that game tomorrow, Monday night.
Yeah.
There was one question brought up by our friend Bob, who is definitely jumping a little too early, but it's not like it hasn't been in my head. On the boards, I don't know if you saw it, that asked the simple question that the men's basketball committee may have a major problem. We've hinted at that with the Northwest Conference, but now we've got this scenario where you could have Nebraska Wesleyan, Whitman, maybe Loras, Augustana, Oshkosh, St. Thomas, Stevens Point, though I think Stevens Point's fallen out of favor here. Maybe back into the mix here, Whitworth. Who knows what's coming out of the SCIAC? You could have all these really good teams sitting on the western side of the country with not a lot of traditionally easy ways to break them up bracket-wise. Now, listen, we've got still, 5-6 weeks of basketball before we get to the point of really needing to worry about this. And as this week has shown, teams can kind of dismantle a little bit here. But we also don't have a lot of good teams, thanks to the Hopes of the world, who are kind of on the eastern side of that grouping that are going to allow for some easy 500-mile directional things here. We might have to see a committee who comes up and gets some extra little bit of cash to break some teams up, or we're going to see some brackets of death potentially.
So this is the low-key question that I've got. And next time you talk to Sam, maybe we can ask about how this is going to go, because
Sam's
now
listening.
that they've made the decision to do the all-division championship twice in the next 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are they going to work extra hard to save money on the off years to make sure they've got that budgeted
No,
out?
that money, I already know the answer to that. That money's been already pre-delegated by the presidents. That's not a money that needs to be saved. Second of all, there is a rainy day fund in place.
Okay.
There's a $1 million plus or something that's been set aside just in case budgets go haywire like it did a couple of years ago and we got in a lot of trouble. So no, we don't. There's no need to save money. That money will be allocated already.
Well,
so we
then
don't have to
all
worry
we're
about
rooting
that.
for is Linfield to make the tournament, and that'll help force one of those teams someplace. Yep. And I've got a lot of faith.
Or a second SCIAC throw it really into a whack, though I don't think that's as realistic as those who posted it on the board.
No, I don't think that's super likely. Ultimately, I've got a lot of faith in the committee to do as good a job as they can. The one thing they have been good about is making sure that the two brackets that end up farther west don't end up playing each other in the first game when we get to the Final Four.
Well, that rotates. Sometimes that ends up happening.
Another way to keep it separated a little bit.
Yeah.
But
they rotate. I think we're gonna end up getting that every few years. They rotate the bracketal matchups, but who knows what they're thinking this year? There's nothing written in stone about that.
Especially St. John's is not ideally located geographically.
Right. No, and that's the thing is, we mentioned those were mentioned, but there's St. John's is in the mix. Stevens Point's a secondary WIAC, but really I think it could be lacrosse at this point, and things can change. Yeah. You technically have the secondary CCIW team. You've got these others that, as one person pointed out, Elmhurst can't get to Nebraska Wesleyan, and the others can. Great. But as I pointed out, you also need to somehow get these teams out of there moving eastward, and you may not have hosts that are close enough eastward because, again, Hope is not going to host at this point in time. You might need the western side of Ohio to be in play here, and that's no guarantee right now. We could have a very interesting gap in the middle of the country that we needed teams to be located in there, and they're not there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we might be looking at is and again, asking Sam, I know they don't like to do this, but giving the third team, so to speak, in the pod a hosting gig because of geography.
You mean in the first weekend?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could see Nebraska Wesleyan had to go to WashU last year because WashU was really good. I don't know if you'd see a similar thing happening again this year because
they want to reward the top.
Away,
they want to reward the top teams, but maybe let's just as a what if, as a not a worst case scenario, but as a what if. What if they do decide, listen, to balance this bracket properly, we are going to go to a non-top seed to host, just to allow us to use the 500 miles the best we can. That's an interesting scenario. I don't know if I'm for or against it.
Well, it all depends on what the list ends up with.
Right,
we
and again,
found
we got
some
5-6 weeks of basketball.
Last year. You had a team like Maryville last year who could go to St. Louis or Atlanta.
Right.
And hopefully we can get some of those again that give you some flexibility and some options.
Well, I think you have a few. My worry is the rest of that region who can't get out, so you have no choice but to make a bracket that features them battling each other.
One advantage is Augustana is in a good spot. They probably are going to host. You can bring some teams down that way and push some of those that are in Illinois. We're really getting into the weeds.
Yeah,
here.
we're getting
you
in the
can push
weeds.
some towards Ohio. There's going to be good teams in Ohio that deserve to host. At this point, I'm not overly worried about it. The only thing will be, it's a real travesty if Whitworth and Whitman have to play each other this year in the first weekend of the tournament. That would
assuming everything we assume now. Yeah, I agree with you.
They are as good. They're better than they have been together combined.
Agreed.
Ever. at least
Yeah.
since I've been following for 20 years.
No, this is the best Whitworth team I've seen. Arguably, this is the best Whitman team we've seen. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I remember last year the committee tried to move him out. But, again, we're getting into the weeds. We can talk more about this when we turn into February.
How likely they are to pay for an extra flight. But
and
you know, there's
again-
a lot of other opportunities that, you know, who knows? Colorado College winning a conference tournament, you know, or
Well, one more team in Texas got picked last year. If it had LeTourneau gotten in, they've got a host suddenly. The whole equation changes. So, yeah, there's a lot that can get
I don't know
flipped
what
around.
Pomona's SOS is, but you could see them, you know, a one-loss Pomona team.
Sure.
Or I guess they'd be 2 losses losing in the conference tournament, something like that.
Yeah.
Would give you a lot more options. So
Right.
Sam's
an
never going to
interesting
tell you who
topic,
he's
certainly.
rooting
Interesting topic. We'll see where it takes us.
Yeah.
Sir, thanks for the time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
for. All right. Sounds good.
Ryan Scott joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline on the top 25 double take, as we call it. I just forgot to call up something, so bear with me a moment. Oh, come on. Sorry. I meant to call up our read for aforementioned hotline, and I didn't do it. That was a mistake on my part, and I need to do it. So bear with me while I get out my special read. Now I got to find it. That's the best part. And I buried it. There we go. Here we go. Blue Frame Technology on the Hoopsville hotline. Guests on the Hoopsville hotline are courtesy of the partners at Blue Frame Technology and their industry-leading production truck software. If your college is ready to showcase its teams through a reliable and innovative video streaming service that won't break your budget, Blue Frame's advanced digital broadcast tools will help take your broadcast to the next level. Learn more today at visiting www.blueframetech.com. That's www.blueframetech.com. So there you go, folks. That's going to be wrapping up our show. We got to get going. Hope you enjoyed it. Thursday, we'll be back on the air with primarily East, Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and West Region teams and the WBCA Center Court. Speaking of which, who do we have lined up for this week's Blue Frame? We will be talking to Oberlin in women's basketball on the WBCA. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Our guests, of course, thanks for them coming on as well. From Lynchburg, Hillary Scott. From Rowan, Joe Crispin. From Cabrini, Tim McDonald. CCIW Commissioner Chris Martin. From Bowdoin, Abby Kelly. Of course, sports information directors from all those schools for helping us get them on the air. We really appreciate their time and resources as well. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show. We'll try and do it a little bit tighter next week. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. For our partners at D3Hoops.com, WBCA, NABC, and Blue Frame Technology, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Remember, if you want to talk about Division III basketball, you've got to watch Hoopsville. We'll see you back here on Thursday evening. Good night, everybody.